There's no time.
The time is
13
o'clock.
Hey, we are back once again for another episode. This is 151.
Yeah, going back to Korea for this one.
Yeah, going back to true crime for this one. It really seemed like everybody enjoyed our 150th episode last week that I had to break up into 3 pieces.
Originally, we weren't really planning on that, but we were having technical difficulties. We weren't sure if certain files were corrupted, so we were just loading it bit by bit.
Yeah, because I did it all in one go. That was like 3.5 hours, and the file got corrupted, and we didn't record until like late. Usually I record like way ahead of time, but we kind of like got busy, and we didn't get to do it till later, so I didn't really have time to process the whole thing out over again, so I just did it in 3 shorter parts just so I could get it up in time. Right. And it was a little bit late, but not really that late. But
we're noticing that Shudder's now running ads on our show.
One that I just saw,
Yeah, now that we're monetized. I'd like to have them as direct sponsor. I guess we're not big enough. I want some of that Shudder money.
Maybe one of these days.
Some of that Shudder money.
Because like I said, it's not even like really whoring because, I actually really like Shudder. And it's a really good service and it's really cheap. Yeah. You know, I use it all the time.
Sponsor Shudder with honor as long as they didn't tell me what to say.
Yeah, which as far as I know, they don't. Because I've seen a couple of channels, like movie review channels that I subscribe to, have Shudder as a direct sponsor. Like I said, although they usually have like 1 million subscribers or more.
Right.
And as far as I know, they don't seem like they.
Well, now that we're monetized, maybe they'll move us up. The show seems to be growing again, so I guess that the algorithms are not as against us as they were before we were monetized.
Well, like I said, that's what we wanted to. Yeah. That's what we wanted to experiment with.
Our content isn't political or controversial, so I don't see why they wouldn't promote us. You know? Like
we're just talking about weird murders and old horror movies and stuff, you know?
Yeah, everybody likes this shit.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, every now and then you get some, like, asshat in the comments, but, you know.
We just take them off there.
I just take them off. Because, you know, like I said, my motto in life is, if I want your opinion, I'll ask for it. And a codicil to that is I will not ask for it. So keep it to your damn self.
Yeah, if you don't like the show, don't watch. I mean, it's not like you're being forced to watch.
That's what I mean, and it's not like there's not millions of other options.
It's not like you paid money to watch this.
Right. That's what kills me, but it's like that's what kills me about some of the comments. Not so much on ours because we don't really get that many bad ones, but sometimes I see ones on other videos that I'm watching, I'm like,
why the fuck? This is free infotainment.
Yeah, it's like, why are you bothering? Go find something you do like.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's storming
outside. So you people there who are bedding down, listening to us before bedtime, you're gonna have that storm action going in the background. You might as well put on one of those little lightning, fucking things up on. Well, you know, put that up on your smart TV. Give you some atmosphere.
Yeah, because we're going to talk about some more crimes.
I guess start drinking.
I
got my Kool going.
Because for us, it's Saturday night, and it's, like I said, we live in Central Florida, and pretty much every evening in the summer, it storms.
Storms and rains, and and it's so hot, even the clubbing isn't really that good.
Yeah.
You know, I like it better in winter.
Well, yeah, because then you can wear, like, all your cool shit.
Cool clothes.
Like, you can wear coats and whatnot. Yeah. Although, I think I wore a coat one time. Last
winter. I got all kinds of clothes I've never worn.
I know. It's too hot, even the wintertime. All right, so before we get into the topics this week, got a couple of shout-outs because we got a couple of new patrons.
Yeah.
Now, we had a patron named Amanda, and she drastically increased her support, so that's pretty cool. She's going to be getting a shirt as well.
Yeah, I'm going to print her up a shirt tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we'll send them out in the next day or so.
Yeah, because
we're packaging it all up. And
I got all the packages. I got all the packages addressed and, you know, little notes on them.
Like, I think there's some other guy. I got a big guy. He who was that? He had a 2XL.
Yeah.
Sure. We had to go get that on a special run because... or
a 3XL.
Or a 3XL. He's getting a slightly different shirt. His is going to be 100% cotton. It's a nice shirt. But, you know what I mean? That was the only 3XL that was available at the time.
Because when we were
it's black, but it's going to be all cotton.
I mean, they're all pretty much the same, but
right. Which there's certain advantages to that. You can re-dye that shit with RIT as long as you want. It'll stay looking brand new forever. I know. I used to do it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So Amanda increased her Patreon money, so that was awesome. And we also got 2 new patrons, Victor and Jeanette. So thank you very much, and welcome to the show. We're very glad you found us. It seems like we've got like a lot of new people that are just kind of coming across us. I got a lot of comments like for the last couple videos.
Because we got monetized.
Maybe we're coming up and more people suggested. Yeah. But that's what we wanted. So yeah, we just want more people to check out the show.
Yep.
Because we think it would be cool. All right. So what I wanted to do on this show, I wanted to talk about 2 cases that I feel like they're not really that well known in the United States, and there's really not a lot of information about them in English. And since I can't speak Korean, it was kind of hard for me to like find stuff about them. I actually started thinking about or reading about the one case of the Frog Boys, which I'm going to talk about in the second segment. And that was for my book that's going to be coming out, The Faceless Villain Volume 3. But while I was looking into that, I found this other serial killer over there too that's like never been caught. Now also the killer of the Frog Boys has never been caught either. So these are 2 unsolved crimes from Korea. And the first one that we're going to talk about in the first segment is called the Hwaseong Serial Killer.
Yeah.
Thus far unidentified. Right.
Yeah, for those of you guys new to the show, I was stationed in Korea.
And I thought you would have some good Korea stories. And
I got all kinds of Korea stories.
Well, that's good.
I was stationed in Korea during the first Gulf War. You know, when I went to basic training in the infantry at Sand Hill, Alpha 254, that's where all the infantry trains. I trained was actually to go to the first Gulf War. But by the time my class, or my cohort graduated, they had a thing where they were doing like stop losses and weird stuff like that. We were too late, so they didn't send us. Instead, they sent us to the 1st and the 506, which is up there near that DMZ in Korea, which was worse. That was hard. That was harder than going to the sandbox because of the cold and the heat. Intense, just brutal discipline. It's just one regiment, the 1st Battalion, 1st Battalion, and the 1st Battalion, 506th Infantry. It's at Camp Greaves, which is right near Warrior Base, where the other guys do their patrols, and we were kind of like the DMZ regiment. Detachments from us ran those, worked with JSA, and Liberty Bell was part of our unit too. So, you know, they hold the talks where a couple weeks ago Trump went across the border with Kim Jong-un. That's near where I worked. So I know that whole area. I know guys that worked there in those blue buildings where they hold the talks. I know everything about how that shit was run back in the 90s. It's changed a bit, you know. The guard posts are different and everything, but Korea was a wild place, man, back in the 90s. It was real wild. And it's toned down a lot. A lot of things have changed. The military situation is different. The economy is different. The Koreans are a lot more wealthy people than they used to be versus the 90s. You know, they rival Japan now in terms of economic development, but not back in this days, you know, back in the days I'm talking about. In the 90s, they were still kind of stuck in the 70s, I would say, in certain ways. They were behind, and they were poor. A lot of government-backed prostitution going on and weird shit like that. But at Itaewon, it was called Hooker Hill, which is weird, where they were kind of like recruiting poor girls into an army of prostitutes to serve the American Army and the Korean Army, to get as much money out of the American Army as possible to get it into the Korean economy. They were almost considered like patriots fighting for Korea for every dollar they could get out of a GI. And it was just, you're just beset by fucking a whole army of basically 17 to 25-year-old girls and women, you know. And they're from, you know, I guess they were from developing families in Korea, but it had this weird atmosphere. Murders did happen there, and regarding this, you know what I mean. Prostitutes were killed sometimes. They had weird shit going on, almost kind of like military concubinage going on in certain areas. It was just a weird time, and these murders happened after all this. I think not long after.
Well, the Hwaseong serial murders happened between 1986 and 1991.
Okay, yeah. So
and then there were a few more later that they are not sure if it's the same person or not.
Okay.
I think the Frog Boys case also happened in 91.
Okay, so this is the same era
So
I'm
this is
talking
about the same time that you were there.
I thought it was after, but yeah, okay, no, that's the same era I'm talking about. It was the Wild West, and we're going to get into details, but from what I know about the case so far, based on what Jenny's told me, I'm kind of suspect that there could have been American involved in this. Maybe. Let's see.
Yeah, I think I told you about the Frog Boys case because I knew that you had been in Korea at about that time, and I had wondered if you heard about it because it was apparently like a really big... And the Hwaseong serial killer case is also a very big deal. I mean, like, they've made like a whole bunch of movies about it and TV shows and stuff. But I feel like it hasn't really filtered through to the West so much. But I wondered, because I knew you were over there at that time, like, I wondered if you had heard anything about it, because I heard it was kind of a big deal.
No, I was so busy, we didn't hear about anything about what was going outside the unit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, okay, that's understandable.
The whole time I was there, I only got maybe 10 days off. Yeah. Maybe 12.
And you were there for a while, right?
A year.
A year,
yeah. Every month, I got maybe one 24-hour pass.
Yeah.
And I had to report right back. They didn't want guys from my unit to be out from underneath their thumb for very long. Other guys at Casey, they kind of had normal lives when they got off at night, you know, and they could do whatever they wanted, and they had a life in town and girlfriends. My unit was run like a maximum security military prison is almost what it was like. You're there on that damn border. They're constantly keeping you down. Busy. We were known, you can look it up, we were called the MGM Scouts, the scouts across the MGM River, and there's a whole industry of making patches and medallions and coins for our unit. It's a very famous unit. You know, the 506 was, if you've ever heard of you ever saw that movie, The Band of Brothers? Or actually it was a series, right? Band of Brothers?
Yeah.
That is about my unit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Currahee Mountain and all that. Yeah, so, but, you know, they broke us off from the 101st and attached us to the 2nd Infantry Division and had us up there on that border. I think they first moved it there in the Vietnam era or right after the Vietnam era. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
The 506 is back with the 101st now. And after I got out of that unit, I went to the 101st. But anyway, all that shit's academic. I know the landscape of what they're talking about and the society that they're talking about. Korea was in a weird transition at that time. It was a modern country, but only kinda. It was in a state of military dictatorship, kinda.
Yeah. Which might have contributed to some of the police.
Yeah.
Why the serial killer wasn't caught.
And it was a military dictatorship because things were happening kind of like under the stress of war. You know, the North and South had been in basically this war going back to the 50s, you know. It was hard to trust democracy because South Korea may have been heavily infiltrated. There was a lot of North Korean spies working inside South Korea. There was a bunch of weird shit going on at that time. And then Korean culture, the Koreans at that time were kind of coming out of thousands of years of abuse between the Chinese and the Japanese, you know. They were kind of an abused population. And it kind of had a medieval mentality that they were kind of getting out of. Like I said, selling girls into concubinage. And they did shit like that still, you know? And then they kind of had these weird situations where they thought that was normal. But then when the girl was like now an ex-concubine or an ex-prostitute, she was now unacceptable. So she was treated like garbage.
Well, yeah.
So it was all these weird double standards, you know?
Yeah. Can't win.
They would take these pretty girls, you know, and train them to speak English and have American customs. The government would basically back turning them into an army of entertainers.
Yeah.
To get as much money as they could out of these guys.
Like geisha culture, I guess.
Basically, yeah. But they were kind of aping Western society. Like, you know, they would get up and wearing bikinis, dressed like a cowgirl with pistols and shit. You know what I mean? And they're dancing in clubs like that. With American flags. You know, you knew what was going on.
Yeah.
You knew what was going on.
Oh, God. Can I just say, though, that Prostitute Army would be a really cool name for a female punk band?
You guys can research it. We didn't know what was going on at the time as young soldiers.
Yeah.
It seemed to be kind of like a normal thing that was happening. But no, it was a show all put on by the Korean government for us to get as much money out of the American government as possible.
Yeah.
You know, because the guy... I couldn't spend enough money there because I only got like 1 day off a month. You know what I mean? I made a lot of money. It just piled up.
Yeah.
But guys that had more normal type jobs, they went out 6 days a week. You know what I mean? They were partying hard. They spent all their paycheck in Korea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
If they weren't
I guess
buying
that was
clothes
the intention.
and spending it on club girls and spending it on booze and cattle, and cattle's fucking booze. They had this stuff called soju, and they'd mix it with fucking Kool-Aid powder and give it to you in a kettle, in a big, like a tea kettle.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. 1 tea kettle of that shit was only about $2, and that would fuck up 5 men. That's how it seemed like it.
Economical.
Seemed like it. Man, it was a weird mixture of good and bad. But it was kind of like moving backwards in time.
Kind of like life in general.
It was like something you'd see from out of the 40s, World War II.
Yeah.
Or it's what it seemed like.
That's really funny.
Yeah. It was hardcore.
But yeah,
it's all gone now. They illegalized all that shit.
Yeah.
It's all gone now.
That's kind of a good background, though, because I feel like I said, this serial killer... who has never been caught. He's also called the Hwaseong Strangler. The interesting thing is that South Korea has always been, one of the lowest crime nations in the world, so they don't have a lot of serial killers. As far as I know, the Hwaseong Strangler was not necessarily the first quote-unquote serial killer, as in same person killed more than one person, but it was the first one to have an established MO where like all the victims were clearly the victims of the same killer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But the weird thing about it, and this kind of ties back into what you were saying about, them being like under a military dictatorship. There was a lot of cops were kind of like, one, they didn't have all the technological advances. They were kind of like backward. They didn't have, even when they had DNA, they knew about DNA and they knew about collecting it, but they didn't have any way of testing it. They had to send it to Japan to do it. And also, there was kind of like a lot of people who were protesting against, the dictatorship. And so the cops, like a lot of them were kind of tasked with suppressing protesters and weren't really interested in investigating a serial killer, especially because it was in sort of a rural area.
Yeah.
So there was that kind of whole thing going on too.
Hold on 1 second. I got to speak in defense of South Korea, though. When an American hears of military dictatorship, they think of shit like the Third Reich or something like that. You know what I mean? That's not really the way the dictatorship in Korea was. The dictatorship in Korea was more... Korea officially was like a democratic republic like the United States. But it was under the stress of war and a bunch of emergency shit had kicked in. You know what I mean? And it was because there were a bunch of protests and there was... I don't know all the little details. But it ended... Korea in the 90s and for a long time looked kind of like the United States during World War II. It was so heavily militarized that everything kind of merged into a government entity. You know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. During World War II, you couldn't protest World War II. You'd end up going to jail. You couldn't defect or be or say, or dodge the draft in World War II. They shot you. You had a democratic republic in the United States during that time, but all of them were basically in agreement about the war. All of them were in agreement in all the kind of this draconian security apparatus that was going on in the United States. South Korea was like that.
Well, yeah.
It was like a democracy that had decided to temporarily give up democracy until the war was over. It's that kind of a mentality.
Yeah.
But people weren't really resisting it. You know what I mean? They weren't captured.
What I'm saying was that, and they even, like, all the several movies that have been made about this particular killer also kind of go into this a little bit as well. That was the reason why a lot of police forces were shorthanded. Also, they weren't real familiar with this type of crime because they didn't really see it all that much. And like I said, their technology was a few years behind, even say Japan or whatever.
Yeah, and Korea is kind of like Japan in a certain way where everything's really highly structured. There's a huge military type chain of command, and it's very bureaucratic, and it's all staffed full of yes men. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Sometimes a guy might do something to protect a boss, or you know what I mean. They would. It's hard to get anything done there because they were all covering each other's asses.
Right.
They were all afraid of shaming a superior. That kind of shit.
Well, yeah, because they have the same type of thing. Like a lot of Asian cultures have the kind of thing where you have to, like,
so
save face always.
Yeah, constantly saving face. So, and they have these weird cultural values where lying's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay to lie because there are good lies and bad lies.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's very frustrating for a Western to try to figure out what the fuck's going on or to get down to the bottom of truth when you have people that are lying.
Right.
Now, they might lie because cultural reasons make them lie. Because they have to save face or that kind of shit.
Right, I got you, yeah.
Right.
I mean, like I said, all cultures are complicated from a point of view of someone that didn't grow up there.
And it's like that. It's like that show we saw, that ad for that show where an old Chinese woman is getting the message from the doctors that she's got terminal disease.
That movie that's
but they
out,
lie to her because in that culture you don't tell the truth to somebody that they're dying.
Yeah.
Here they say, "Bet your time's up. You're gonna die."
Yeah, like if you want to do anything fun, better do it right now.
You better get your shit in line. Yeah,
and you better write your will
make
and say
your
goodbye to all your
arrangements. Exactly. Well, they don't do so. There's a lot of that kind of stuff in Korea. And
that movie actually looks kind of interesting because I'm interested about like the cultural differences between. Because the main character, I can't remember what the name of it is, but the main character is someone who's like Chinese, but she's like Westernized, and then she goes back to China, and then there's this whole culture clash between probably we should tell her that she's dying, and they're like, no, we can't.
East and West.
We'll ruin her good mood.
East and West have totally different value systems.
Right. Exactly.
And, okay. Japan is considered to be almost like an alien country that has weird traditions. Japan is Western compared to Korea back in those days. Kind of almost as Eastern as China. It was like being in like a more modernized version of China. It was kind of like that.
Yeah.
China with money, but not as much as Japan.
Yeah.
Although now, like I said, I think they rival Japan in terms of wealth.
Yeah, South Korea does, sure. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing about the Hwaseong serial killer, like I said, there have been a million movies about this. Probably the best known one is called Memories of Murder. It came out in 2003, I believe, and it was directed by Bong Joon-ho, which, if you're into horror movies, you will recognize his name because he directed The Host, he directed Snowpiercer, he did the Netflix original Okja, which I haven't seen yet. So he's like a really big deal, horror director. And he made a movie about this. I think it was only his second movie. He did Barking Dogs Never Bite before this one, which I think is either on Shudder or Netflix at the moment. But this one is not. Now, this one, I watched this movie actually in preparation for the show. You can rent it from YouTube for $3.99, or actually, I found a free one on there. So if you want to find it and watch it for free before anybody takes it down. But it's a little bit of fictionalized kind of thing, but it's actually a really, really good movie, and I'm going to recommend it. If you dug David Fincher's movie Zodiac, then you will probably love this one. It's like a police procedural, except kind of like a black comedy too. Now, interestingly, this movie gets compared to Zodiac a lot, but it actually came out 4 years before Zodiac. But it's a similar type of vibe, and it's kind of all about this particular killer. Like I said, some aspects of it are fictionalized, but it concentrates on the cops and like how, one, they're kind of inept. Two, they kind of enjoy torturing suspects to get confessions out of them, which might have really happened. I'm not really sure.
In Korea?
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, there's one cop in particular, and he has kind of like a redemptive arc, as the movie goes on, but he has this mistaken belief that he can just tell you're a killer by looking in your eyes. Yeah. Like he has some kind of like magical thinking type thing. So he's picking up like all of these, and it's really sad because one of the first people that they pick up in the movie is like this mentally challenged guy who they basically like hang him upside down and they beat the crap out of him and they try to like coax him into confessing, which they do, but he doesn't understand what he's confessing to. And he's like, well, I just looked at his face because he was ugly. He had like burns on the side of his face and he wasn't that smart. So he must have done it.
Right.
Even though. But they had like the clash between that cop and then there was one that had come from Seoul that was kind of more like ahead of the curve and like knew like how actual investigation worked. And so there was like a fight between those two cops. It's actually a really good movie and I recommend it.
Yeah, and that's actually weird even for Korea. The idea that you could look into somebody's eyes. Okay, now to straighten something out for people that don't know Korea real well, you would think that Korea would be something like Buddhist or animist or some shit like that, like in Japan, you know. They're not. They're Christian.
Yeah.
I think they're Presbyterian or some kind of a Baptist type religion. And what was strange about that is that during the Korean War, they saw Douglas MacArthur as like their big savior because he did save their country from the North. I mean, that's yes, they did. The North took almost all of it. MacArthur did a big invasion at Incheon and drove them all back out, you know, and helped the South Koreans regain power there, right? Well, they all just adopted his religion. So I forgot which one it was, but if you go to Korea, it's like Christian churches. Yeah. That's where we're going to do a show on Reverend Moon.
Oh, that would be
these people don't know what Moonies were. Moonies were Korean.
Old people like us know what Moonies are.
Moonies were...
They're still around.
Yeah. Moonies were Korean Christians that they had their own reverend, and they kind of went off kind of like the Mormons, but it was more about paranormal, you know.
Yeah.
Reverend Moon would astrally project and go out and fight communism and shit. You know?
Right. He did.
So we're gonna talk about that one of these days.
I still remember that mass wedding. I think they showed that on TV.
He had this mass wedding, and everybody it was all interracial marriages, whites and Koreans, and blacks and whites and blacks and Koreans, and everything. And that was gonna, I guess, balance out the harmony.
Well, he was trying to unify.
He's trying to unify all the human race. Yeah.
Well, that's kind of a nice idea.
Yeah.
But even though
he's a trip, though. That shit's a cult. That shit's a cult.
Moonies are crazy.
I'm not fucking crazy.
I'm not justifying that shit
Moonies
by
are
any
crazy.
stretch of the imagination. I said it's a nice idea, but, you know. Jim Jones had some nice ideas, too, until he went flying off the rails. We should do a show about that, too.
The thing is about Reverend Moon is that, I'm going to say this from what I know. From what I know, there may be shit I don't know yet. I haven't really looked in from... So far, Reverend Moon was not a malevolent character. He was a good guy.
Well, none of them start out like that.
I don't think he did anything bad, though. Maybe real estate scandals. They were all those religions did that shit. You know, real estate scams.
That's the thing. Like I said, even Jim Jones started out with good intentions, and then that shit just got completely subverted and went.
I think the Moons.
Way off
I think the Moons still have a shit ton of money, actually.
I think they do, because like I said, I think that's still kind of a big deal. Like you don't see them in the airports anymore.
No, not anymore.
Not that I know of.
They
not
moved
the
up
last
in the
time.
world.
Yeah, I guess so. They don't hang out with the tambourines anymore.
Most religions get involved in real estate. That's where they sink their money into. That's the best way to do it. You just keep buying property.
Scientology, for sure.
You just keep buying property and say it's part of the church, and that it's all tax free, and you can do a lot of weird.
Well, especially in this country,
You can build a huge empire if you say that you're a church. Mm-hmm. We got to do that. Church of Tom and Jenny.
That's what I mean. It's like I don't think I haven't thought.
It's all
of it.
church property.
It's like, I can buy all this. Just like, I'll buy all that shit and not pay taxes on it. I can run all kind of crap out of there.
Imagine that.
You could run a fucking religious brothel. You could have your prostitute army in there.
Yeah, prostitute army. I mean,
it's like back in old Greek and Roman times when they had like the sacred hookers, like by the temple or whatever.
Hey man, but Scientology has secret desert bases.
They do.
Fucking huge concrete walls and with all their plaques stored in there and their machine guns and all kinds of shit. Guys going crazy up in there because they're working by themselves, hanging themselves.
Yeah.
Can't take it.
You wouldn't even think that was real.
It was to hide the plaques. So they survive the end of the world. You can come out and bring L. Ron Hubbard's teaching to the world.
I think I probably said this on one of our Scientology shows when the Angry Go Pope was on, but I was just like, it depresses me so much that if any kind of worldwide cataclysm kind of happened and a whole bunch of people
would survive,
and that's the only thing, and then that I'm like, that bums me out a lot.
The world isn't like people want to think it is, The things that actually survive are shit like cockroaches, sharks, and Scientology.
Yeah.
And GNC. As a mall dies,
and
you're going to
Bath and
see
Body Works.
in Bath and Body Works.
Somebody loves that fucking lotion, man.
That's right.
That
you can go to
$8
any
lotion.
dying mall, and the last one to die is GNC.
Yeah, for
or
some
Bath
reason.
and Body Works.
Some of them still have Victoria's Secrets in them,
Yeah.
too.
It's because their product doesn't cost anything.
It must be that.
It's just all profit.
It must be that.
Yeah.
Because I just always wondered why. It's like every time we see a dead mall video, I'm like, okay, well, all the stores are closed. Where's the GNC? Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
The GNC is always still open.
Yeah.
It's always the last one standing.
And in my...
Props to you, GNC.
In my personal experience, my personal observations, I mean, you could lie to yourself all you want. It's not that Ivy League high-minded shit that makes it over time. It's fucking stupid shit. That shit is just going to be around forever.
I think it depends. I mean, it's not always stupid shit that survives. Sometimes it's like cool, intelligent shit. Because, I mean,
No.
some shit that I... Well, okay, well, you just see what you want to see.
Well, think of what happens. Think what happens. Okay, we all know that civilizations really are kind of a fragile thing. As things get more complicated, it takes more to keep that going. Civilizations have risen and fallen many times over. If we ever got hit by a big asteroid, 10,000 years in the future and wiped out civilization, but a few people survived, they would not remember any of this. You wouldn't have physics and the works of Albert Einstein and Chaucer. All that shit would be long gone. But they would know, they'd be more worried about how to make fire.
Well, I think given enough time, they would probably figure it out again.
It would take a long time, yeah.
But yeah, it might take us just as long as it did the first time.
But all that real sophisticated stuff like the Sistine Chapel and all that stuff, and maybe that pyramid might still be around, because that was some dumb shit too. They just pile a bunch of rocks together. That's pretty caveman thinking when you think about it. Let's put them big rocks, stack those rocks up. And let's just
into
keep
a
stacking
triangle
them.
shape.
Keep stacking them. Yeah.
Until we get to the top.
It was a bad investment, man. After they built that one, they stopped. I don't think they built anymore. They're like, okay, that was the pyramid to end all pyramids. I mean, there's some older ones out there. They're all fucked up, falling over because they couldn't do them right. But
Yeah, true.
But eventually,
some of the early ones were kind of lumpy.
Yeah,
but they're still there.
They eventually perfected those 3 down there in the Gaze Plateau. And they called it quits.
They're just like, that was too expensive.
Yeah.
It was too much trouble.
And then religion said, fuck it, we'll just write things down in a book.
It's much cheaper.
Yeah. So I think that's what they were doing. I really think that's what they were doing. Became more and more efficient,
Yeah.
That's, I think they built those for the king more than it was religions, maybe, but it's probably all...
Well, yeah.
We'll get into that another day. I got a bunch of different ideas.
He's got a bunch of different ideas.
We're talking about pyramids now, and this is supposed to be about Korea.
I know.
Okay, we're going on one side. Everybody loves it when I start going on these little fucking side
and
tangents.
Sometimes, like, when I try to think back, like, later on, like, when I watch this back to edit it, I'm always kind of, like, curious because sometimes, I'm kind of, like, not thinking or I'm reading my notes or whatever while you're talking. So sometimes I'd be like, wait, how did we end up over here? I don't even remember how we ended up there. You know what I mean?
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter.
I'll talk about pyramids when time comes.
Ooh, something to look forward to.
I was in Egypt too, you know what I mean? So
yeah, so he knows about pyramids.
So yeah, I know about. I was in the army. I was in the MFO mission, Multinational Force Observers. In the 101st, we were working for the UN. I got some stories. I'm hanging out with the Bedouin. I got pictures of me with the little Bedouin children.
Oh yeah, I've seen those pictures.
Yeah, driving around in a patrol truck, fucking with the AWACS planes. Enforcing that embargo on Iraq, all that shit, none of that shit added up to being anything. It's all temporary. But, yeah. They built those pyramids. I don't want to talk about the pyramids. We're going to talk about Korea.
Well, you're the one that went off talking about pyramids.
I'm fucking drinking.
Then he acts like it was my idea.
Yeah, you're
like
encouraging
I suggested
this. You're
it.
encouraging
I'm just
this.
sitting here.
Okay.
I'm not doing anything.
You're not stopping me. If you're not stopping me, you're encouraging.
Well, what do you want me to do? Like smack you in the mouth or what? Because I can do that.
We gotta get back to the show.
All right, so as I said, if you haven't seen the movie Memories of Murder, it was one of Bong Joon-ho's very early movies. You should probably check it out because it's really, really good, especially if you liked Zodiac. And it takes some liberties with the case, but it's mostly kind of accurate. So the Hwaseong serial killer, also known as the Hwaseong Strangler, was a killer who murdered it was either 9 or 10 women from a period spanning September of 1986 to April of 1991. And like I said, there was a couple like more recent cases that were sort of similar that were either the same guy or maybe a copycat killer, but I'll get into that later.
Okay, well, let me say this right now. That span of time is much longer than a 1-year tour of duty of fucking American soldiers. So I think we can probably pretty much.
Well, I think when you said that American soldier, you were more talking about
that one
the
case
Frog Boys case.
Frog Boys killer.
That was just like a one-time thing. This was a serial killer. Right. Yeah, it was almost a 5-year span of these murders, and one person did see him, which I will get into in a minute.
Okay.
And it was definitely a Korean dude.
Okay.
All right. So as I said, between 1986 and 1991. Between 9 and 10 girls and women were killed by this particular killer. Now, there was no particular age range. The youngest victim was 14 years old, and the oldest one was 71 years old. But they were all killed in the same way. They think maybe that the guy was either going after a particular physical type rather than somebody of a particular age, or he was just like an opportunistic killer. Like he just wanted to kill somebody because he generally would attack them like while they were walking home at night or something like that. So he was just like somebody that happened to be walking past, however old they were. He didn't really care. Now, as I said, this happened in a pretty rural area. This is like a little city called Hwaseong, which is in, and I know I'm going to murder this because I'm not Korean, but the Gyeonggi province.
Gyeonggi.
Okay.
Yeah, Gyeonggi.
So I was close.
Yeah.
Now, all the bodies were found within about a 2-mile radius. Actually, more like a 1.2-mile radius. It's a pretty small area. All of the victims were raped. All of them were strangled with stuff that they had on them, like clothing. Usually it was pantyhose or their socks or something like that. So this was a killer that, like I said, was opportunistic.
That's pretty typical for serial killer, too.
Yeah, it seemed like he was stalking, and it was like a fetishistic sort of, and he was just waiting for somebody to come past. He didn't bring anything with him. Now, some sources I saw, like I said, there's not a huge amount of information on these, in English anyway. And, you know, I tried to translate the Korean page on it, and it just came out like gibberish. I couldn't even read it. So, I did see I read a couple of like English language, like Korean newspapers that were talking a little bit about this case, like in the present day, because they were talking about present day murders and comparing it to the old ones. And they were saying something like some of the victims had been stabbed, but I don't know if that's accurate or not. Most of them, I mean, all of them died by strangling. Almost all of them were strangled with their pantyhose or their bra or something like that, you know, something that they had been wearing. Now, the first victim of this serial killer, this happened in September of 1986, September 15th. And this was a woman. She was 71 years old, and her name was Lee Won Im, and they found her body in a pasture. They usually found them either naked or mostly naked, just kind of laying there, and they had been strangled with, like I said, bra, pantyhose, whatever. Now, there was another one a little bit more than a month later, October 20th, 1986. This was Park Hyun Suk. She was 25 years old. They found her body in a canal. Now, a little while after that, and I think this is about the right time, like I said, not a huge amount of information about this, but right around the beginning of December, there was a woman, and I've never seen her named in any sources, so it might just be a case of, you know, because she wasn't a murder victim, because she survived, so they might have been keeping her name, like, under wraps because she didn't want the publicity or whatever. But she was actually grabbed by this killer and raped and left for dead, but she survived. So she is the one, and I'll probably show it, and I'll show it in the video. So she's the one that gave the description of the guy, like for the composite sketch. As far as I know, there's only one composite sketch of the dude, and she is the one that gave it because she survived the attack. And this was right around the beginning of December 1986. Now, according to her, like I said, it was a Korean dude. She said he was kind of plain looking, about 5'5". He was very average. It's interesting because in the movie they said that they talked about like how soft his hands were. I don't know if that came from the actual case files, because if you see the poster, and like I said, I'll put a picture of it in the video. If you see the poster, they have like the sketch of his face, and then they have like a photograph of hands like crossed in front of a chest. So I kind of wondered, like I said, I can't read Korean, but I kind of wondered if maybe that soft hands detail was something that was taken from the actual case. Because that was kind of a big deal in the movie where they found this woman that had been raped by this guy, and she said, like, how soft his hands were, like, because he had his hand over her mouth and stuff. Another thing that this guy would do,
He's
too...
like an office worker or something like that.
Right, so, so they knew that probably he wasn't a laborer or anything. Another thing that this guy would do, too, and this they also put this in the movie, and as far as I know this is accurate, he would strangle them with their bra or pantyhose or whatever, and then he would take off their underwear and put it over their head, like a mask. So, like I said, this is very fetishistic. Now, there was another murder that happened on December 12th, 1986, and this was Kwon Jung Bon. She was also 25, and she was found down an embankment, and it was very close to where the first victim, the 71-year-old woman, had been found. And then 2 days later, another girl, Lee Kyae-suk, she was 23, and she was found in a canal nearby. Then there was another one only a couple weeks later, January 10th, 1987. This was Hong Jim Young. She was 19, and she was found in a rice paddy, very near where the first and third victims had been found. Then there wasn't another one until about May 2nd, and that was Park Eun Joo. She was 29 years old, and she was found on a hill near the other victims also. Then after that, there was kind of a big gap. There wasn't another similar one until September 7th, 1988. This was An Gi-soon. She was 54 years old. She was also found in a canal. Then there was another one a little more than a week later, September 16th, Park Sang-hee. She was 14. Now this one, they don't know if this was the same killer because this girl, like I said, they'd all been raped and strangled, similar MO. But this girl was not found outside. Like I said, she's only 14 years old. She was found in her house. So they weren't really sure if this was the same guy or not because the MO was a little bit different. So they thought this might have been a copycat. Now, a dude was arrested for this particular crime. He was 21 years old, and his name was Eun Joo, and he was arrested in July of 1989. But they don't think that he did any of the other ones. They think that maybe he just busted into this girl's house, raped her and murdered her, and then tried to kind of make it similar to these other crimes. So they don't think this is the same person.
Yeah.
But this victim is usually tied in with the other ones, even though they caught the guy that did this one. Then there was another one in November of 1990. November 15th, 1990, Kim Mi-jung. She was also 14 years old, just like the last victim had been, even though this is probably not the same killer. She was also found on the side of a hill. And then the canonical last one happened on April 3rd, 1991. This was Kwon Soo-sang. She was 69 years old, and she was found on the side of a mountain about 9 o'clock at night. Same thing, raped and strangled with her pantyhose.
69 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the oldest one was 71. The first victim was 71.
Yep.
So, like I said, this seemed like a crime of opportunity.
Mode of death was always strangulation.
Yes.
No stabbings.
I
No blood.
think, now, like I said, one source that I saw said that some of the victims were stabbed, but I think all the causes of death were strangling. And they were always strangled with pieces of their own clothing. Always. That's how they knew that this was the same
And
guy.
what kind of terrain are we talking about? This is in suburban areas or country areas?
It's rural.
Rural. Okay,
Yeah, it's
so
like
I know
a
what
farming community.
All right, I know exactly what they're talking about. Korea is really only one of three things. It's either a city, it's a mountain, or it's a rice paddy. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. Outside those cities, it's a bunch of roads that weave in between mountains or along the sides of mountains or down in valleys. It's a weird place when you see it. You could, because everything is kind of mountainous, a lot of times you can't see very far.
Yeah.
So you could be sitting on a patch of road, and it might be at a three-way intersection, and you might see 200 meters up one street, 50 meters down the other street, and not see any houses, and you'd have houses in the area.
Yeah.
With the grass, And so it's kind of a weird terrain. Visibility can be kind of spotty. So what we're talking about is that in those areas be a good place for an ambush. You can sit there and wait.
Yeah, I'm kind of
right.
feeling like that's what this dude is doing.
Talk to somebody, gain their trust for a few minutes, clock them, and then do what you got to do, and then get the fuck out of there and not really be seen. Now, the way Korean culture was is that the women were quite passive we saw some shit on the bus going down to fucking Seoul a lot, where we would have to step in. Okay, here's a good example. One time, me and my boy Webb, we were going to, we both got passed at the same time. Webb was a big old black guy. He was good to have around, too, because that fucker could throw some fists. We were in the middle of the bus, or we were in the bus on our way to go to the train station. We were coming out of the DMZ area, Jim Gak. It was in the morning. We got our pass early in the morning. And schoolgirls got on the damn bus. Mm-hmm. We're talking 12, 13-year-old schoolgirls. Standing in the morning, in the middle of the morning, standing up in the middle of the bus, a bus basically vacant, was an old drunk. You know, he looked like an office dude, you know what I mean, with his suit on, and it's all unkempt, and his fucking ties fucked up.
He'd been out all night drinking.
And he's hanging, you know, from that rail.
Oh yeah, I can picture it.
Yeah, and he's right dead center in the bus, taking up the whole aisle.
Manspreading.
He's manspreading in the fucking center of the bus, and an empty bus.
Yeah.
These little 10, 12-year-old, maybe 13-year-old. Sometimes it's hard to tell, these little Korean girls. A lot of them looked a lot younger than they really were.
Yeah.
But I would say they were probably late middle school. You know, I don't know how their schools, but it's organized. They're probably 13. You know.
Yeah.
They walk by the old dude, and he's grinding up on them as they're going, and trying to stop them as they're going through. And they're cowering, trying to get around him and not make eye contact with him. He does like 4 of them like that. Webb jumps up there, and I see, Webb jumps up and runs toward him, Captain Save-A-Ho, and I'm right behind him like that. He grabbed that dude and snatched him and threw him down in that chair like that. Like, just like that. He's looking, yelling at us in Hangul. You call it Korean, but it was called Hangul. I guess it means Han language, you know. And he went up there and saved them girls from that dude. You know what I mean? Well, what I was getting at is that Korean men, when they were behaving badly, we would see them intimidate Korean women like that kind of shit, throw their weight around. Mm-hmm. And they didn't really resist. They were very timid.
Yeah.
So probably that's the kind of shit he was doing.
It might have been, yeah.
All right. He'd see some girl, all right, and start throwing his weight around, and they would just kind of cower. And once they kind of got compliant, he'd rape them, then kill them.
Although I have to say that, like, you know, being a girl myself, I've had things happen very similar to what you're saying when I was about that age, and I have had things like that happen to me as well, like on buses and whatnot.
Yeah.
And it depends on the person. I was kind of a shy kid and stuff, but I didn't really I just kind of, like, you know, would run away. I think over here it'd probably be more likely that a girl's just going to pop you right in the dick.
Over there, they're kind of like, you know, the shy Japanese girl stereotype, you know, who just like, they were even more so in Korea like that. And I can see one of those dudes being kind of like that. Yeah. And trying to do that. And as soon as he's able to get any leverage on her, then he starts going further. Yeah. You know. And what was funny in that case, like what that guy was doing, a guy here in the West couldn't have got away with that shit. Probably. I had to pull Webb off that dude. Yeah. These are 13-year-old girls, you know. This dude's in his 50s. Yeah. You know.
Although, like I said, it doesn't shock me because I had a similar kind of thing. And honestly, like I said, even if you grew up in America, if you're a girl, you probably had similar kind of shit happen to you when you were a teenager or less than a teenager.
Here's another thing. The bus was mostly dead, but there was fucking middle-aged women and men in that bus, and they just watched.
And they just didn't do anything.
They didn't do shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, over here you would just get your fucking teeth knocked out.
Hell yeah, the whole crowd would turn against you.
Yeah, they would just, like, beat you to death, probably. And rightfully so. But yeah, so I do feel like this is probably, like I said, they only have one sketch of this dude, that the woman that got raped, and she survived, and she gave the police a sketch. So, the weird thing about this, so the guy, they think that when the crimes were going on, he was in his 20s or maybe early 30s. So he could still, conceivably, he's probably still alive. They think that he stopped after 1991, but they're not entirely sure why. The only thing they know about him, like I said, other than having sort of a sketch of his face, knowing about what age he was. Now, I've seen they know that his blood type, I've seen both AB positive or B, either positive or negative. Like, different sources say different things. I'm like, that's not super helpful. But that's about all they know. Like I said, they had semen samples from some of the crime scenes, but they didn't match any of the suspects they had at the time because they had a shit ton of suspects, but they never caught the guy. And as far as I know, they never matched, because they had to send like the DNA shit like over to Japan because only Japan had the technology at the time to do DNA profiling, and Korea couldn't do it. But by the time they got it back, it didn't match any of the suspects that they had in custody. Now, this was actually one of it's a pretty significant case because, as I said before, you know, they'd had murders, they'd had like, you know, oh, these murders were probably committed by the same person, but they never had like a quote unquote serial killer where he had like a very identifiable MO and like you're immediately like, oh, this is that guy again. And this was like the first time this had happened. So they didn't really have a lot of experience with this type of crime in Korea because it just didn't happen in this particular way. They didn't really have the resources to deal with it. Now, they did evidently, even though, like I said, the cops were kind of shorthanded at the time, this was kind of a rural area, they did expend a huge amount of time and resources on this. From what I've read, they'll see some of the sources say that they had assigned 2 million cops to that. There's not 2 million cops in Korea, I don't think. No, what they mean is that it was 2 million man hours, meaning it's not 2 million people. It's just, you know, however many cops it was spending 2 million hours on this particular case. They actually questioned over 20,000 individuals. But still, they really still have no idea who this was. Now, one of the very controversial things about this, and I might talk about this a little bit too on the Frog Boys case too, because I think it was kind of the Frog Boys case that changed this law. But for a long time in South Korea, murder had a statute of limitations of 15 years, which it sounds crazy.
That would have made sense in Korea.
But at the time, they justify. I mean, they had like capital punishment and stuff like that. But at the time, because they didn't have the technology, they said, "Look, if we haven't caught you in 15 years,
they can't prove it. Right.
You know, there's no way we're going to be able to prove it. Right. So what good is it going to do?"
So what they're talking about is what DNA probably changed all that.
Yeah, because after the Frog Boys case happened, and you know, people were like freaking out about statute of limitations, and it was up in 2006 or whatever. And they're like, look, even if they catch the dude now, like you're not going to put him in prison. What the fuck? Right. So in 2015, they actually overturned that. Now, I don't know if they overturned it across the board or just in these particular cases of like, you know, particularly egregious crimes. But they did actually overturn it. So they started like revisiting a lot of cold cases after 2015 because, you know, after they got rid of that statute of limitations thing. Now, interestingly, in 2004, there was a college girl who was murdered in Hwaseong in a very, very similar manner. So there was like a lot of articles that turned up because I found like, you know, at least 3 or 4 articles talking about this particular crime and then kind of reflecting back on the Hwaseong serial killer case and speculating if this was the same person or if it was a copycat. Because like I said, if it was the same person, I mean, this guy, if say he was only in his 20s, then he would only been in his 50s in the 2000s, right? 50s or 60s or something like that. So it's conceivable that it could be the same guy, or it could be somebody that just heard about the cases. Because like I said, these are very high profile. There have been several movies made about it. So it might have just been somebody copycatting. So, like I said, if this dude did indeed stop in 1991, nobody really knows why he stopped.
I don't know if you could call him a copycat because there wasn't much of a signature there. I don't, you know.
Signature, rape.
Right.
And strangulation with the clothing.
That's very, very generic, you know. And it's almost kind of like something I could see out of Korea, where there isn't anything flamboyant or anything real, you know, talking about unique. You know, it's a very homogeneous culture. So maybe if a person goes serial killer, they kind of do it in the most conservative way possible. You're not talking about somebody who's cutting somebody's faces off.
Although he did do the underwear thing.
He did the underwear thing?
He did the underwear thing.
Yeah.
Like over the faces.
It just sounds very conservative, and that's kind of the way they were.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like the bare minimum.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
That's like the bare minimum serial killer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like just enough.
Yeah. But like I said,
in other words, he would have been a very, like almost like a square in serial killer terms.
Well, he's not. I mean, I'm not discounting. Like, I'm not trying.
Yeah, I'm not minimizing.
I'm not trying to like downplay like the horrific nature of what he did, because like, holy shit, if you're just like walking home one night and
we have much more bizarre shit going on.
But yeah, it's like, this isn't like, oh, I cut the girl in half like the fucking Black Dahlia or anything like that. Or I kept her
chained up for a couple weeks and tortured her for a couple weeks. That's not what this is. This is almost kind of like basic masher shit. You jump up
this
on a
is a guy. Yeah, he's lurking around kind of these rural roads in the night. He's wearing black clothing. Everyone that saw him said he had just had black clothing on. So he's like lurking around. Basically, like I said, I don't think he had a particular victim profile other than a woman walking alone by herself at night that I can jump on. Because like I said, it was teenage girls, it was 20-year-old girls, it was 60-year-old women, 70-year-old women.
Basically what you're talking about is a very toned down Eastern version of the Ripper, but without the blood. No knives, no butchering somebody, but it's just basically kind of like the same thing. You wander around waiting for a victim.
Yeah.
And I'm picture the terrain. I've seen so much of that terrain. I could see that. That'd be a decent place to hunt.
Well, they think that this is a fairly organized killer. Yeah. I mean, he probably had some particular quote-unquote hunting spots because, like I said, all the bodies were found within less than a 1.5 mile radius.
Yeah, the traffic isn't heavy in Korea up there, especially up towards the DMZ areas. You could sit there on a road. It might be a good 15, 20 minutes for a car to go by. Yeah. And chances are it might be a military truck.
Yeah.
And they don't give a shit. They're not really paying attention to civilians. They're thinking about other things.
Yeah.
If they saw you fucking over a woman or something like that, they'd stop. But they're just not alert for civilians.
Right.
They're not that's not a suspicious society anyway.
Yeah.
They don't think about that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they're not driving around going, what's that guy doing? What's that guy
what's
doing?
he doing? Yeah.
Now, an interesting thing, and I think some people have kind of put this forward as a little bit of a theory, but this might have come from the movie, I'm not really sure, because in the movie, one of the signatures that the killer has, not only he always attacks when it's raining, but he always, before he kills, he always calls into this particular radio station and requests this particular song. And actually, in the movie, it's like the only female detective who everybody just like, hey, go get tea, bitch, or whatever. But she's actually a cop. And she's the one that says, hey, I listen to this radio show. And they always have this postcard. And this guy always requests this kind of like obscure song. And those are the same days that the murders took place. So there was some rumors that actually that did happen, that somebody did call in or send a postcard to a radio station requesting this particular song on the days that the murders happened. But the rain thing was not so much. I mean, 2 of the victims were found like when the weather had been rainy, but as far as I know, the other ones were not. So that was kind of a thing that they came up with in the movie. I think in the movie too, they said that he targeted women that were wearing red, and I don't think that was necessarily the case either. I think he just grabbed whoever was...
Sounds like a random.
...walking past, like his spot, you know what I mean? It just seemed like he was just waiting for somebody to wander by.
I don't picture a guy like this being picky. I picture him more being, like, desperate.
That's kind of the impression I get.
By. That kind of stuff.
It's like, I feel like, one, this is a fetishistic killer, clearly. This is somebody that's like, he's got particular hunting grounds within this, 1.5 mile radius in this little rural town. He's got good hunting areas. He knows that, maybe at this time, like, women are going to walk by, or maybe there's like a bus stop, or maybe like they walk home from work or whatever. I don't know if he necessarily did any research beforehand. You know what I mean? Like saying, oh, this is where women walk by here sometimes. I feel like maybe he spent a lot of his time just waiting. like a guy in a duck blind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's just like waiting like behind this hill or something.
It's weird
like,
that this guy
waiting for somebody
even
to wander
exists.
past.
It's weird that this guy existed because what's happening here is not sexual. I mean, sex was easy to get in Korea. You know what I mean? Prostitution was legal.
Yeah.
So he's trying to kill somebody. This is hatred.
Yeah.
Or either that or he's particularly repulsive. Or maybe he's been totally rejected by women.
Although, like I said, from the sketch, he just looks like a normal looking dude.
Normal guy?
He doesn't look like, he's not like Quasimodo or nothing.
Yeah, but he might be repulsive
Personality-wise,
socially.
yeah, because looks
Right.
aren't everything.
Or maybe, Korea is very status oriented. It might have had something to do with his birth. Maybe he was illegitimate, or maybe something like that.
Yeah, this guy definitely gives me the vibe of somebody that's like, I deserve
More,
women and I'm not getting
Yeah.
it, so
Might have been
those
some-
bitches owe me, so I'm going to kill them.
I'm going to take these bitches away. Fuck them. You know, that kind of stuff. Something
That's
like that.
definitely the mindset that
Something like that.
that's the vibe that I'm getting here.
It's hard, they won't really know until you catch them, and you know what I mean. I'm not that familiar with the inner workings of the South Korean mind on that level. You know what I mean? But and shit, Americans that do this kind of shit are hard to figure out. So,
well, like I said, any human that does
Yeah.
this kind of shit. I mean, like I said, and if you're a normal human,
Yeah.
then that's good that you don't understand that, because if you did understand it, I'd be a little bit scared.
because of the situation in Korea, I'm going to say it's some kind of resentment for rejection. That's what I'm going to say.
That's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah.
Now, from the little I could glean from what people have like looked into about this case, they're thinking he's probably psychopathic. He was probably like a young guy, like you said, that had probably been rejected by the opposite sex. They said that he shows traits both of a serial killer but also a spree killer, because a lot of his early crimes were very, very close together. Sometimes it was only like a week or two in between. But then there was like long gaps. Like some of them there was like a couple, like in a really short span of time, and then there was like a year, and then there was another one or another couple, and then there was another year. So it seemed like like I said, they're not really sure why he stopped. They don't know if he died. Maybe he committed suicide. Maybe he went into a mental institution. Maybe he went to another country. Maybe they don't really know. Now, I think, according to the one woman who survived, he did actually threaten her with a knife. So, like I said, maybe that thing I said earlier about stabbing did have some shit to back it up. But
He didn't seem to have to use it, though. He just strangled.
yeah, he didn't really say that. It just seemed like he brought it along as a threat, because
Right.
he didn't kill them that way. I mean, as far as I know, all of the victims the cause of death was strangling.
Could she identify like what social class he came from? Whether or not he was a
Not that I ever saw. Like I
was
said,
was he a local farmer from the area? Or was he a
I feel like
professional
he
guy?
almost had to be from there, because it seemed like all of the victims were drawn from this one very small, like, rural community.
He lived there then.
He must have lived there. I mean,
He probably lived there and then somehow resolved his issues, moved away, and felt lucky that he didn't get caught. That's probably what's going on.
yeah, I do feel like that.
How old did she say he was? More or less?
She said maybe late 20s. She
Yeah.
thought about maybe late 20s, maybe early 30s.
Okay.
But no older than that. She thought he was, like, fairly young. Now, I should note, like I said, the guy that got arrested for that one, the 14-year-old who got raped and murdered, and they found her in the house, he was 22. But they don't think he was the same guy that did all the other ones. They think that he was a copycat. Like, he was trying to make it look like...
Korea's not a big place. If he moved away and continued to kill, they'd know about it. Tells me that he somehow stopped what he was doing.
Yeah. Or died.
Or died. But
Yeah.
probably more like stopped with... They have a long lifespan.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not... Korea's not that dangerous.
Well, yeah, like I said, that's why this was a big deal, because
Right.
they don't have shit like this doesn't happen there.
The danger there is military danger.
Yeah.
And, you got three armies keeping it under control. And I think it's going to be over soon. Yeah, I know the inner workings of North Korea, too, pretty well. And I know it's kind of off topic, but North Korea has always wanted a peace treaty with the United States. You hear a lot of shit in the media, and a lot of it's lies. After Kim Il-sung died, Kim Jong-il, his main mission was to get a really workable peace treaty with the United States. And I think that's going to happen. They don't want to be at war forever. And a lot of shit that they've been doing to their own people have a lot to do with this war. You know, it's a train wreck. That country's a fucking train wreck. All right? It made Nazi Germany look all right. That's how bad they are. They're worse than that. But, you know, once you have an entrenched power structure, it'll do anything to stay in power. And that's just what it's doing. But once they get that peace treaty, it'll unravel. Well, go ahead. I don't want to talk about it. It'll unravel because I know how that shit's going to go. Yeah. Because the ruling class wants the assurance that they'll be able to keep their money and, in worst case scenario, escape to safety with immunity in another country. All that shit's going to be guaranteed to them. Because the West and South Korea will basically give them that in order to resolve the problem. Because that's how you're going to solve those humanitarian problems that it has. You can't blow those problems up. You're just going to kill innocent people. The North Korean people are basically innocent. They're occupied and controlled by a medieval warlord, really, that has enslaved them. That with a religion too. You know, they have a weird religion where they worship god emperors. It's not really weird. What it is it's traditional. That's how China was during the god emperor phase. You know, that people, Westerners, look at what's happening in North Korea. They're just appalled, but if you look at it from the point of view of a North Korean and say maybe like the ancient Chinese, what you see there is that's a traditional fucking Korean regime. You know, that's how they've been for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know, you could say South Korea is the weird one if you want to look at it from the point of view of traditional Korean religion. You know, democracies didn't exist. You know, the same with Japan. You know, they worshipped the emperor. They had their own religions and stuff. It's exactly like that.
But yeah, so as I said, now a college student, a woman, was found dead in 2004, which was very similar. Now, there were also 2 disappearances in late 2006, early 2007. I also found this article. Now, this also happened in the same town, Hwaseong. Now, what happened was this one woman, her last name was Park. I've never seen the first name given. She was 52 years old, and she was a bookkeeper at a plastics manufacturer, and she left work and disappeared. And they they found that her mobile phone, they tracked like where her mobile phone was, and it had been turned off about 6 miles away from her company. As far as I know, they have not found her. Now, December 14th of 2006, another woman whose last name was Bay, she was 46 years old. She had worked in a karaoke bar, and she made a call on her cell phone at 4 a.m., and then a few miles away, the cell phone was turned off. She has also not turned up. So this article that I saw keeps like hearkening back to the Hwaseong serial killer, because they're like, is this the same guy? Is this a copycat? Because this is very similar to like the same MO. Now, as I was like researching this, there was another case, and this happened in 2016, so only a couple of years ago. And this woman, who was 47, and her last name was Kim, for no first name given, they found her dead in a canal in May of 2016. Now, she was naked except for her underwear. They found a bra and a jacket that they assumed belonged to her that was like a little way away.
Her name was Kim?
Her last name was Kim.
Yeah. As I said, you said no. Okay, yeah.
No first name was given.
Kim is always... What's funny is that there's only like 4 last names.
Well, yeah, I know that's a very common last name, but like I said, I couldn't
Kim,
find...
Song, and Park.
Yeah,
that's you know, but yeah, okay. Because I was going, wait a minute, hold on, no last name given, and I was like, that is the last name, but you said first name. Okay.
No first name given.
No first name given. Yeah.
That's what I said.
Yeah.
So now this body was found about 30 miles away. Now, as far as I know, I have not seen any update on this case since 2016. They're not entirely certain whether this was a murder. I mean, even though she was kind of found just in her underwear and stuff, but they think that the cause of death might have either been drowning, hypothermia, or carbon monoxide poisoning. Now, she was found mostly naked in a canal, so
drowning.
That seems to suggest murder.
Yeah.
But they're not entirely sure. Now, they do note that she had some mental health issues. She had been treated for bipolar disorder. She had been hospitalized in 2005. So they're not entirely sure if this was a murder or maybe just an accident. But like I said, because it happened in a similar, in at least within a few miles of the other murders, so they're wondering not necessarily if it's the same guy, but if this is a copycat type of crime. This one I don't know about, but the other two women that disappeared, that seems a little odd to me. Because like I said, it seems like from what I know about Korea and about their crime rate and stuff like that, this is very unusual. And like I said, Hwaseong is not a big place. So any women disappearing in this little rural town, that's going to raise some eyebrows, whether this is the same dude or whether it's just somebody like copying that dude. Now, like I said, this was kind of a big deal in Korea at the time. They've made several movies and TV shows about this. Best one, like I said, the one I've seen, Memories of Murder, which, like I said, that was Bong Joon-ho. That came out in 2003. There was also one called Confession of a Murder, which came out in 2012. There was one called Gap Dong, which came out in 2014. There was one called Signal, which is probably the second best known one, that came out in 2016. And one called Tunnel, which came out in 2017. And there have been a couple other ones too. So, as I said, go watch Memories of Murder because it's really good. Like I said, I found a free one on YouTube, but you can also rent it on YouTube if you'd rather pay. It's $3.99. But go check it out. It kind of is fictionalized, but not that much, at least from what I could find out from the case. But it's interesting to me how not known this serial killer is, even though he's killed at least 9 people. And it seems like people don't really know much about it, and I couldn't really find all that much about it. I listened to one other podcast about it, but they didn't have a lot of information about it either. Right. Because unless you can speak Korean, and I did watch the movie just so I could get some kind of insight into like the differences and stuff, but
they'll probably catch him eventually.
I would hope. And like I said,
they have his DNA. They have his DNA.
They do.
They'll catch him.
As I said, the suspects that they've questioned so far as I know, have not matched the suspects that they had. Like I said, in the movie, they kind of showed them like just picking up random motherfuckers and beating them into confessing. Yeah, it depends on Korea. I mean, I don't know if Korea has like a national crime database where they have where they can put. They probably do nowadays. Where they can put everybody's DNA on because if you don't have a high crime rate, you don't have a lot of encouragement to do that, right? To do shit like that. There's this, well, why should we put a $40 million system? Yeah, it's like, what? It's just one guy to catch like a couple of guys. Yeah, fuck them, they'll die off. That kind of stuff. Well, like I said, in 2015, they did reopen like a lot of cold cases just because of the whole. And like I said, this probably was because of the Frog Boys case, which I'm going to talk about in the next segment. But just because they lifted that whole statute of limitations on murder thing. So they did reopen a lot of old cold cases. So we'll see. They do have some physical evidence, so maybe they can match it to somebody. Like I said, it's somebody that lived there. Whether he still lives there now or whether he's dead, I don't know. But he obviously lived there at the time because that's who he was targeting. He didn't really go all that far. So he might have moved to one of the cities. Yeah, that's another thing. He might have moved away. But like I said, I haven't seen any other similar crimes coming up in other cities around there, which you'd think that would come up. I mean, he'd be in his 50s now. A guy can change a lot from that time, so he's probably like, cool, I hope they don't catch me. It might be that. Because, look what happened with the fucking... Like, wow, so I did that when I was a kid. Look what happened with fucking D'Angelo, man. It's like nobody... And even the show that we did about Original Night Stalker before D'Angelo got caught, and we were he's got to be dead. He's got to be dead. Because, like, look at all of the fucking rapes and murders that he did. So, like, 50 rapes. Well, that bitch was... 12 murders. That bitch, though, he had all the signatures. I thought he was dead. He had all the signatures of being the guy that did that, though. Yeah. There goes your little coaster. Because he was the type of crimes that he did was the rage monster crimes. Yeah. And then when they find him, he's a mean old man, fucking. Yeah.
That's him.
Everybody did say that too.
Yeah.
It's like you can tell even by looking at his face. It's like he looks like an asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like he just looks like he never had any happiness ever in his life.
I kind of think this dude was like a beta, like a super beta, kind of pervy, kind of pissed off incel type guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think he's a badass.
I don't get that feeling at all.
I think he's probably fucking trying to keep low, and he's probably somebody you look at and you go, that's him? Just some little loser.
One thing that I liked about the Memories of Murder movie is that, like I said, because they haven't caught it had a very, if you've ever seen The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which was kind of a loose adaptation of like the Phantom Killer crimes, it had kind of a similar ending where the cop at the end, the one that thought that he could see murderers just by looking at them, like there's a long shot of him just like looking into the camera, and the director, Bong Joon-ho, said, well, he's like, that kind of serves a dual purpose. He's like, one, I wanted to show that like he's looking into the eyes of the killer, but he's like, also, the dude that did this might be watching this movie. Yeah. And he's like, so I'm trying to like be like, hey man, I know who you are. Yeah. So, you know what I mean? So he was almost kind of like trying to, and I was like, oh yeah, I guess that dude probably did see this movie, because this was a hugely successful movie in Korea. Now,
the survivor, how did she describe him?
She said, like I said, I have a picture of the, she said that he was just very plain looking. He was just like a normal looking dude, about 5'5", kind of a slim build.
Okay, I know exactly the type. That's generic Korean.
They said he was just very ordinary.
They're getting taller nowadays. I saw some.
He was ordinary looking.
I saw some Koreans up at Starbucks, and those fuckers were over 6 feet tall. Back at the time that I was in Korea,
they're eating all our fattening food.
They're eating all that food that we're eating. Back when I was in Korea, you'd only like Korean special forces and like Korean Marine Recon were that big.
Yeah.
Yeah. They worked out.
This guy, like I said, he just looked like a completely normal dude. And I think that's kind of like what Bong Joon-ho was going for. He's like, because this could be anyone. So that's why he wanted to have that final shot of like the cop like looking out into the audience, almost like he's saying, like, I see you.
She's describing that real random Korean peasant stock from the fucking rice paddy families. That's what she's talking about.
Well, and like I said, he had to be a local. He had to be a local. Why would he just target like that one tiny area?
5'5", 135 pounds. That's usually what you're talking about. And
that's about how she described him.
And not athletic at all. Weak, That's... Man.
There's a great scene in the movie, and this obviously didn't happen in real life, but it just amused me. Yeah. There's a great scene in the movie where the cops, like the two dumb cops and then the one smart cop who's like from the big city, they decide, they're like, oh, well, sometimes like the murderer returns to, one of the scenes of the crime, so they're going to go stake out the shit, but they don't tell each other about that.
Yeah.
So like the two dumb cops are over here behind this one hill, and like this smart cop is over here behind this other hill, and neither one knows that they're there. And while they're both there, this one guy comes like slouching into the area where they had found this body however long ago it was, and he takes like a pair of panties and a bra out and like lays them out on the ground and then starts jerking it, and also he has like lacy women's underwear on. Mm-hmm. So they take this guy into custody, but it turns out that he's just a perv.
Just a perv, yeah.
He wasn't the killer. He was just like a guy that like got off on the idea of it.
He was a fetishist.
And he just like liked the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna go to this place where this body was, for like this naked body was found, and I'm gonna jerk off over it. So like they go, so there was like a great scene.
It's like he didn't that shit in a place like Louisiana. They'd have fucking said, no, you did it. They'd give him a fucking death
penalty.
They
did in the movie too. Yeah. Like that guy got beat and tortured and everything like that. But then they had to let him go because another crime happened while he was in custody. So But it's a good movie. Go check it out. I haven't seen Signal. I haven't seen some of the other ones, but I did see Memories of Murder, and I definitely recommend it. All right, so we are going to take a break right now. When we come back, I'm going to talk about another unsolved true crime case from Korea, the case of the Frog Boys.
Yeah, I like this one.
We'll get it. Yeah, case. I told you about this one. Case, so, I'll get into why it's called that, too, erroneously, I feel. But we'll get into that after the break. We will be back in just a few minutes.
Where is she?
She's right there.
See the Pookie. Can't see her face. She's looking at the camera. Looking at the camera, Pookie.
Oh my goodness.
Why don't you roll over?
Look at that belly. She's hilarious.
Shit's fucking funny. Okay, we're back. You might see that camera move. That's because Pook's got her head rested up on the base of the camera. She's pushing on a little
she
bit.
decided that whenever we do the show, she always has a thing where it's like, I'm going to lay behind the laptop.
Yeah. She wants to get up here and be a part of the show.
Yeah.
So the show's to her. She's the audience. She's back there looking at us going like, I don't really understand what you guys do, but you talk in this direction. So I'm just going to, chill out
it's
here.
like, you guys are in here, so I'm just going to, hang out in here because that's what I do.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm talking, I'm looking at Pookie. Pookie's looking at me sometimes.
Yeah, I am too.
So
because I have to keep an eye on her because otherwise she will chew on the cord leading to the microphone or the cord leading to the camera.
Yeah.
So I have to, kind of circumvent that by, giving her... I have these little chew sticks that I bought for her that have catnip on them. So I have to, give her that. So I'm like, please chew this instead of the cords because I don't want her chewing the cords. But,
she's back there yawning. She's getting ready to fall back asleep.
You can go to sleep, Pookie. It's okay.
Okay, so let's get back to this.
All right, so now we're talking about another Korean true crime case. This is the case of the Frog Boys.
Yeah, Frog Boys. This is some weird shit here.
I told you about this the other day when we were walking.
This one's got me thinking there might be American involved. We'll see.
This is possible because, like I said, this is not a serial killer. This was, as far as I know, this was a one-time event, but also it's very strange. This happened in March of 1991 in Daegu. There have also been a couple of films made about this. Now, one was called Comeback Frog Boys. This was made in 1992, which actually happened before the boys' bodies were found, so they still thought the kids were missing. There was also another one called Children, which came out in 2011. Now, I tried to, as I said in the first segment, I watched the one about the Hwaseong serial killer, which was called Memories of Murder. I found that one on YouTube. Now, somebody posted the movie Children on YouTube also. However, it's in Korean and the subtitles are Vietnamese, which doesn't really help me all that much because I speak neither language. Yeah. So I kind of watched it, but I couldn't really follow what was going on. So I'm just saying. But yeah. Now, this happened, like I said, the disappearance happened in March of 1991. There were 5 little boys.
Now, what year is this again?
1991. 1991. Okay. There were 5 little boys. Yu Chua Wan, who was 13 years old. Jo Ho Yuan, who was 12 years old. Kim Yong-gyu, who was 11. Park Chan-in, who was 10. And Kim Jong-sik, who was 9. Now, on this particular day, I guess a lot of people in this particular area, I don't know if it was all of Korea or just this particular area, they had the day off because there were elections that day. I believe it was a Tuesday because I think I looked it up on a calendar. So schools were closed, a lot of workplaces were closed, and things of that nature. So these 5 little kids decided that they were going to spend their day off and they were going to go up in the mountains and go look for salamander eggs. And like I said, they came to be called the Frog Boys later because for some reason... media later said they were going up looking for frogs or looking for tadpoles, but actually, as far as I know, they were looking for salamander eggs. All right. And they just kind of came to
be. The whole time I was there, I never saw a salamander.
Really?
Yeah, and I was living down in the mud.
Not even any of the ones
digging foxholes, or we call them fighting positions. You guys call them foxholes. You know what I did see? I tell you the weirdest shit I ever saw in Korea.
Oh, tell me.
Gigantic hornet. I mean,
how big was this hornet?
The head on that hornet was about the size of a nickel.
Mothra size? Ooh.
Yeah. It's fucking huge. Got stung by one of them. Found another one dead. Saw some of them flying. That hornet must have been about that big. Talking maybe 2.5, 3 inches long.
I've seen hornets that big.
Gigantic hornets. Yeah. Another one I saw we had this bridge called, what was the name of that shit? It was across the MGM River. I think it wasn't the bridge of no return. I think we just called it MGM Bridge.
Yeah.
And I had to do 2 days of damn guard duty on that thing before I fucking rolled out. Went back to the United States. And I was up there with a bunch of South Korean troops. We were working together guarding that damn bridge. But a lot of it at night because we shut it down. It was just sleeping. All right. Man, they had this bug killer. It was like this little can. And they pull it out. It was like a little spiral, like a spiral. It was a spiral-shaped piece of like incense. So you'd light it and it would burn.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
and that shit would go up and kill
I've seen those, yeah.
Kill all the fucking mosquitoes.
Was it like citronella?
Yeah, it's killing all the mosquitoes.
Yeah, we have that here, too.
And the mosquitoes are just falling out of the fucking sky, man, inside there. We were sleeping in seemed like about an inch of fucking dead mosquitoes on the bottom. Well, what was weird about that is around the awning, or like, the roof of the guard shack, this bridge is gone. They blew it up, all right? That was really our part of our job, was to blow that bridge up. Yeah, because it was already wired with explosives. And if the North Koreans invaded, what we were supposed to do is blow the bridge up.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, that way they couldn't get across the MGM River. Well, that roof went over. There's like a little awning that went all around that guard shack. And that thing was infested with the fucking biggest spiders I've ever seen. The asses on those spiders were big as ping pong balls. And totally round.
My granddad's house here in Florida had spiders.
Yeah, we used to find we used to run into those damn. Well, they're not the wolf spider type things that we have here.
Yeah.
They had long, spindly legs on them. We used to run through them at night. They'd set up webs in between the trees.
Yeah.
And we'd be fucking walking through
the webs.
Yeah, with your weapon and shit.
Be like, God damn it! I just fucking finished.
And you could hear the damn spider going, running over across your jacket or hitting the ground, and then going. And running away. Man, those fuckers were nasty.
I gotta tell you.
Scary ass fucking spiders.
Well, and I mean, growing up in Florida, one thing that's horrifying, and maybe a lot of people from other parts of the country don't realize, an insect only becomes frightening when you can hear them walking over something, like in the middle. Because in Florida, famously, we have palmetto bugs. Yeah. Giant fucking cockroaches. Yeah. And you can hear them, like sometimes, my grandmother's house, which was built in the 1950s, and these big palmetto bugs, we had all these palm trees in the yard, and they would fly in the night, like trying to find coolness because of the air conditioning. So in the middle of the night, you'd wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning, and you would hear across the wall, and you would know that there was a giant fucking cockroach in there. And I have to tell you, I don't know if I've told this story in the show before, but one night I woke up and I heard that and I was like, oh man, there's some shit in here and I gotta wake up and kill it. And then all of a sudden I felt a weight land right between my tits. Yeah. And it was like, it was a giant fucking flying cockroach and it landed like right there while I was like, fuck it. Oh, I freaked the fuck out. It was a booby trap. It was. It was horrible. I was like, oh, nope, I'm sleeping on the couch. Bye.
Here we got giant cockroaches, giant hunting spiders. What else? Alligators.
Yes,
big old snakes, armadillos.
Big snakes, big poisonous snakes. Yeah. It's fun.
All right, so let's get back to this fucking murder.
All right. So now, on this particular day, as I said, there was an election, so a lot of shit was closed. So these 5 boys, they actually had a 6th friend whose name was Hwaseong Kim. Now, they were all going to go, because they had the day off, they said, well, we're going to go up with our little buckets and stuff, and we're going to go up to the hill where they usually went to play, and they were going to look for salamander eggs. Now, at the last minute, Hwaseong Kim actually got called back by his mom. I guess, like, she was like, hey, you didn't eat your breakfast or something like that, or don't go up to the mountain with them. It's like, don't go, it's too far, or whatever. So he actually ended up not going, which was actually kind of lucky for him in light of what happened later. So these 5 little boys, aged between 9 and 13, set off to Mount Hwaseong to go look for salamander eggs. So they go up there, and then hours later, their parents are like, they come home from work or whatever, or, they're like, hey, haven't heard from those kids in a little while. Wonder where they might have gone. Because the sun's starting to go down. It's been all day. They've been gone. So the parents start to look for them and can't find them anywhere. And this is not a huge area. There's like a town, there's like a hill in between, and then there's another town on the other side of it. The kids were very familiar with this area. They played on this hill all the time. They knew some kids in the other town. They were all from like the same elementary school. So it wasn't like they just like wandered off and got lost. They were very familiar with this area. And they played here all the time. So none of them came home. Their parents started looking for them. They looked for them for hours and hours, and they couldn't find them. And now it was starting to get dark, and they were all starting to panic, understandably. So they called the cops. Now, the cops fan out. They're looking for it. They've got dogs. They've got everything. They can't find these kids anywhere. So these 5 boys have essentially just disappeared. Now, because of that, like at the time, like I said, this kind of crime is very unusual in Korea. So this was like a huge, like a media sensation. The cops, they pretty much like, pull out all the stops. They got the dogs, they got like fucking search parties, they got everybody. Some of the kids' parents actually quit their jobs so they could look for the kids full time.
Damn.
You know what I mean? So this was like a big deal. The kids' pictures were on everything. They were on the milk cartons. I even found a photograph on Google of like, you know how back in the old days they used to have like phone cards, with like minutes on it and stuff?
Remember those? Yeah.
Yeah, and they had one of those with all the boys' pictures on it. They started calling them the Frog Boys because
they thought they were looking for frogs.
They thought they were looking for frogs, even though it was salamander eggs.
It's funny because it's funny, man. Just there are no wild animals in Korea. They ate them all. They ate them all. Yeah,
We ate all you bitches.
The war and everything, the war and poverty. There are birds. There might be fish, but they would have, the fish would have probably been, stocked.
Yeah.
They ate everything. There was rumored that there was a tiger in the DMZ, but I think it was bullshit.
You didn't see it?
I didn't see it, and I couldn't see how a tiger could survive.
Well, especially if it's just one.
Yeah, too many landmines. There wouldn't have been a damn breeding population, and what would it eat? I didn't see it.
This is what at any time like anybody. I always hear reports of like, oh, there was this one like wild animal, because sometimes you hear like in the UK, oh, it's a black wolf or something. Yeah. It's like if there's just one of them,
there's no breeding population.
Then I don't see how that could happen.
Yeah, but they, it was funny because, we were living outside most of the time during that 1 year, doing field problems. We never saw any animals other than birds. Birds and insects. Just all gone.
Like, it's just, that's funny.
Just gone. Everything was just eaten.
Huh.
Because, the war and the poverty.
Yeah.
And, I don't think they had any kind of controlled hunting. They did stock ponds with fish, but that's commercial.
Right.
Kind of sad when you think about it.
True.
Because
shit, I mean, like I said, where we live in Florida, where
birds and shit everywhere.
Honestly, if you release an animal into the wild, even if it's just a pet, it will thrive here because the climate is so conducive.
Yeah.
So shit, we were coming home. We just ran up to the grocery store to get orange juice and shit. Coming back, we saw a whole family of sandhill cranes.
Yeah.
We saw a big, huge tortoise.
We see bears all the time.
We saw a bear walking into our neighbor's garage, for fuck's sake.
I had a bear walk into my garage and look at me.
Well, he was sitting in the driveway.
Yep.
He was sitting in the driveway.
Yep.
So we just I go out for a walk like every morning, like on our, trail behind our house. Every morning you see like turtles, snakes. There's a pond that has alligators in it. I've never seen them, but I can hear them. They make that little call and everything. There's fucking birds everywhere. It's just animals everywhere. So it's weird to me to think that there's no animals.
The Koreans knew we had a taste for beef, but beef was, expensive in Korea. So that we had, they would sell our army food, so.
Yeah.
And the main thing that they sold us, really, they sold us lots of cabbage, fucking cabbage all over Korea. Should have slugs in it and stuff. We eat it anyway.
Grody.
But yeah, but
protein though.
Little bitty slugs. You'd have to pull the cabbage head apart, after it was cooked. And you'd find cooked little slugs in there.
You should do that here too, because slugs love cabbage. Yeah, even in the United States.
Yeah, but the main meat they sold us was rabbit, and that was really the first time I'd fucking had rabbit was when I went to Korea, and they gave me a half of a fried rabbit. I was like, what the hell? Going through the chow line, a rabbit cut right down the middle, deep fried. It was fucking good.
I see rabbits too.
It was good, yeah.
I've never had rabbit.
It's like chicken, kind of.
They've
chicken with a pork texture.
But I've seen it sold here in grocery stores, so it's not that odd.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not a huge, like, it's kind of like a niche item.
It made sense for Korea though, because you don't need huge grazing territory like you need for and then you don't need to worry about pig pens and raising pigs. You can raise a lot of rabbits in a very small area.
They're very small.
On very little on bullshit food, rabbit food.
They'll eat pretty much
anything. And the suckers reproduce.
I had a pet rabbit.
They reproduce like crazy.
They do.
I would think that a rabbit probably reproduces about as fast as a chicken, and you can't keep the number of chickens under control. You better eat you some fucking eggs. If you got chickens, you got more eggs than you can eat.
Yeah.
That's
another thing too, is that the path where we walk and where we live is not, it's not super rural. Like, they like to sell it as rural because it used to be.
It used to be rural. It's now
but
yuppie,
now it's kind of like
rural. We're yuppie.
But even rural. Now, like, I walk on the trail, which is like county owned and maintained. I have seen many wild rabbits. Yeah. I have seen bears. Yeah. I have seen several snakes. Many other animals. And like, I don't know. Like, I feel like. One, there's bunnies everywhere, and I forgot what I was gonna say. What was I?
You can edit it out, I guess.
Yeah, where was I going with that? Shit, I don't remember what I was gonna say.
Just the shit that you saw out there.
Yeah.
Okay. We got wild animals, armadillos, possums.
That's the thing. I'm just saying that I see like animals.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
We saw a turtle, like I said.
Armadillos, possums everywhere. But that whole time I was in Korea, living out in the field, never saw what I would consider to be like a real animal.
That's crazy.
Birds and bugs.
Shit, I was walking the other morning.
Lizards.
It was between 7 and 8 in the morning. I saw a fucking doe and a little fawn.
Yeah.
On the path, like on the paved path. And then they kind of ran behind the bushes like when I came, but... Yeah.
Yeah, I asked Kim, Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong... what was his name? Yeah, Kim Jong-un. No, not Kim Jong-un. What was his name? Korean Katusa I worked with. Oh, man, I can't remember his name. I'm fucking drunk. It was Kim. But they're all named Kim. There's only 3 names, like I said. But I asked Kim, I said, where are the animals, man? You know what I mean? He goes, what animals? And I said, did you have any rabbits, any deer? He goes, oh, no, that's all I know. So there's no animals. He said the war, and poverty, they ate all the animals. Kind of shame. You know what I mean? So everything
it is, because I am always like
the peninsula's been just eaten.
I mean, even though it's Florida and there's like animals everywhere, I'm always like super jazzed. Like when I'm walking in the morning and I see the deer, I'm like, oh, look, it's like little deer. When we see like sandhill cranes or like I said, we were coming back from the store today and I saw like a big old turtle, big old tortoise like on the side. That was in our neighborhood actually, and he was just like sitting by the side of the road. I love that shit. Once
peace comes to the Korean peninsula, I don't see any reason why you couldn't restock the peninsula.
They ought to.
Yeah.
Animals are delightful.
You got to have animals in your environment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's just how I see
Even though I have to say, like, not to shit on anyone in this neighborhood in particular, but the animal control ended up having to shoot a bunch of bears.
Because people complained as bitches.
And it wasn't in this neighborhood. Yeah. It was one that was like about a mile away.
Yeah.
And a woman got, she wasn't killed or really even hurt all that badly, but she was kind of like dragged for a little while by a bear.
It was her fault.
It was her fault.
It was
like,
her fault.
she kind of, like, busted into the garage, and the bear was in there, like, looking in her trash, like bears will do.
And the bear was trapped. It couldn't get around the car.
And it freaked out, and it didn't...
It pushed her out of the way.
It hurt her, but it didn't, like... It didn't hurt her badly. It just kind of, like, moved it because it had a cub, and, you know.
She was from another part of the world. We're talking about a Middle Eastern woman. That's the story that I got. She was a Middle Eastern woman, and it really scared the shit out of her. And they called animal control over.
I get that, but I really... And honestly, like, we saw that...
It was a fucking black bear. And those... they're clowns. They won't...
They're not going to hurt you unless
rare.
you deliberately fuck with them.
You can deliberately fuck with them and they won't hurt you. I got that shit on video. People running up to them and fucking slapping on the ground and...
Well, I've seen a cat scare a black bear away. I was walking the other morning and, like, it was before you got up, so I was like, it was 6:37 in the morning, and I was walking on the path, and, like, I passed a couple, and they said, "Oh, there's a bear back there, like, watch out." I didn't see it, but, like, we've seen bears like on the path, and like I said, we've had them, like, turn up in our driveway and stuff like that. They're not gonna hurt you unless you deliberately.
They're not a predator.
I mean, they're scavengers, essentially. They'll go through your garbage. Scavenger. We had one go through our garbage the other day.
People think there's some kind of apex predator like
it's not a grizzly bear. It's not a grizzly bear. Grizzly bears will fuck you. They'll eat your face. But, like, black bears, not so much.
Even that
I wouldn't fuck with a grizzly bear.
There are some grizzlies that evidently can really be cool. They're a complex animal. There's a guy that would go up there and hang out with the grizzlies. But eventually you're going to run into a fucking mean grizzly. That's just how it is.
That's just going to eat
That's how it is. Like you're rolling. It's Russian roulette. But when it comes to black bears fucking run first to ask questions later. If you see a black bear or a brown bear, my best advice to you, and this is from personal experience, go, "Hey, what's up, bear? Come here, man. Come chill out." And just walk towards the bear and try to greet the bear, and the bear will run.
Well, don't act like prey.
Never act like prey. Always act like a friend and walk right towards them, and they will run.
Which is kind of true of, like, strange dogs as well. Yeah, because I feel like dogs will bite you if you try to run away because you're acting like a prey animal.
You got to act confident.
Don't act like a prey animal.
You don't act confident. You have to be confident. There's a big difference. Just go, "What's up, bear? How you doing, man? You looking good. Come here, bear. Come on, let's chill out." And that bear will run.
Well, like I said, this happened. We were coming back.
I do it all the time.
And this was the middle of the day. It was, like, not nighttime. It was nothing. It was, like, middle of the afternoon. We're driving back from the grocery store or whatever. We're in our neighborhood, and I see a black bear, pretty decent sized one, and he's just moseying into one of our neighbors' garages. Yeah. Apparently because there was a fridge in there, because they can open refrigerators. I'm not dumb.
Yeah.
So we see him and we're like, well, okay, well, maybe we should stop and, like, tell the people that probably they should close their garage door because...
I tried to talk to the bear.
There's a bear.
She saw me try to reason with the bear.
So we pull over by this person's house.
Yeah.
And Tom is like, what? He's like, "Hey, bear, what you doing?" And, like, the bear is like, "Oh, shit." Yeah, and, like, the bear is like, "Okay, well, I'm going over here." And, like, he left the garage and he walks over.
He's saying, "I don't like dudes talking to me."
Yeah, and he's like, so he just left. So then we went up to the people's house, and it was, like, this it's like an elderly couple. I've seen them several times because we pass their house all the time.
Yeah.
And we were like, "I don't know if you know, but probably you want to close your garage door because..."
Bear tried to get into
bear just walked into your garage.
Bears know what a garage.
Trying to get into your garage refrigerator.
They know what a refrigerator is.
Because, well, like I said, they know how to open car doors. They know how to open refrigerators because they know that there's food in there or that there's somebody that can give them food. They're not stupid. So I was like, so maybe if you don't want, like, bears hanging out of your property, you might want to, like, keep the garage door closed. So, you know. We have, like, talked to that couple a couple of times subsequently.
Yeah. They are more intelligent than a dog, and I would think only a little bit less intelligent than a chimpanzee, but a lot better personality than a chimpanzee. I would say a personality more.
They don't seem as aggressive.
No, more like a dog.
Because honestly, like I said, and I might have told the story before, but, like, one night when we came home from the club, and it was probably like 3 or 4 in the morning, and there was a very, very large black bear sitting in our driveway where we usually park our car.
Legs spread out.
Yeah, and he was just, like, sitting up there just chilling.
Like and
We pull into the, and we were kind of messy. We were
fucked up.
So we pull into the driveway.
Yeah,
and Tom is like, "Hey, bear!
Come on over here, man. Come here, man."
Come here.
That fucking bear ran.
And that bear's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm out of here."
We're not talking about a little bear. If that bear
he was a very large bear.
That bear stood up on his back legs, probably about 6.5 feet tall.
Oh, at least.
Maybe.
This is a very big bear.
Big bear.
Yeah.
It was bigger than a big man.
Yeah. But because we were like, "Hey, bear, what's up?" We were drunk. Like I said, we were kind of stupid, so we weren't really thinking about getting
it's the best thing to do.
Eaten by a bear.
It's the best thing to do.
Like I said, you're not acting like prey, so they're just kind of like, I'm out of here. Bye.
They're not a predator either, so they're just like
I said,
I ain't talking to you, dude. I'm leaving.
The black bear, and the whole reason, like, we live in Seminole County, the whole reason why they gave us these bear-proof garbage cans was because they wanted to discourage, because that's what the bears around here do.
Out of here. Yeah.
They try to get into your garbage.
Yeah.
And we had that the other day because you had the bear-proof garbage can, but we had a lot of garbage because we forgot.
They're very similar to
so they put it in another thing, and the bear came and knocked it over with his butt.
They're very similar to a large dog or
a
large raccoon, but I would think that a raccoon is a little more intense. But you can make friends with a raccoon too.
Raccoons are cool, man. I like raccoons. Okay, so getting back on topic.
On topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a concept.
We go off topic sometimes.
Well, I know.
Yeah.
They
like it though.
A lot of people seem to like that. That's okay. Okay. So these 5 little boys have gone missing. Like I said, so their parents have quit their jobs so they can look for them full time. Cops are looking at them full time, like millions of man hours, posters, fucking. These kids' images were on candy wrappers, they were on phone cards, they were on milk cartons. It was just fucking everywhere. It was a huge deal. Now, initially, police were of the opinion that these kids had run away, which, okay, whatever. Or that they had perhaps died accidentally.
Yeah.
Now, like I said, they disappeared in 1991. They didn't find them until 2002.
Damn.
11 years.
Those bodies were out there for 11 years.
Now, so this is very strange to me because, okay, so here's the thing. 2002, September 26th. That's actually my birthday.
Is it? Yeah, I guess so. Look at her.
He doesn't even know what my birthday is.
I know your birthday when it comes up.
Because I remind you.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. What's my birthday?
July 1st.
Damn, isn't that something? Women and their memories.
I know, don't we suck?
I'm drunk right now, too.
Don't we suck the way... Well, I'm drunk, too, but, I still know when your goddamn birthday is.
I don't want to talk about it.
Do you really... Okay, I'm just going to go off on a tangent here. We just saw the movie Midsummer. Mm-hmm. And one of the plot points of this... I'm not spoiling anything. It's awesome. It's not as good as her... I feel like it's not as good as Hereditary, but it's good in another way.
I liked it better than Hereditary.
He liked it better than Hereditary. Yeah. Hereditary, for real, traumatized me. I had nightmares for 2 weeks.
I gotta see it again. I
had nightmares for 2 weeks after that shit. And that never happens. That never happens. And you guys know, I love fucking horror movies. That stressed me out. But this is a good movie too. But one of the plot points in it was that the main character's boyfriend did not remember her birthday.
Oh, ain't that some shit?
And remembered some other shit. And then, some bad shit happens because of that. I'm not going to spoil it because it's new out.
That's how these women are, man. That's how they do shit.
So I'm just saying, if we ever get kidnapped by, some Swedish, pagan cult... Yeah. I'm not, making any promises about what might go down.
I got fucking serious head injuries, though, in my past, so it makes me... I can't remember numbers.
Right, but...
I can't remember numbers.
Right, but the thing about it is
and I don't even know what day it is today, half the time.
It's Saturday.
You gotta tell her, man. I have a hard time remembering what day.
But, well, okay, I can give you some leeway on that, but... Yeah. I'm I'm going to just say right here, I was married for a long time before this whole thing happened.
Motherfucker.
And he didn't remember shit either, and he did not have a head injury. So I feel like it's maybe a dude thing, like their brains don't really work correctly.
Damn.
Like they can't remember anything.
There is no correct or incorrect, it's just it's a continuum.
I have just found that dudes' memories don't work.
She's sitting here fucking beating me up in public. Ain't that
I'm not beating you up.
We're gonna get all kinds of subscribers for this shit.
That's all right. No, I'm just saying I'm not hating. Like I've seen, there's a huge like spectrum of different things, but I feel like in my experience, like dudes I have known, memories not so good.
Bitches be crazy. Bitches be crazy.
They seem like not so smart.
I was gonna say bitches be crazy. They're always picking on us, man.
Oh.
Okay. Let's get back to the topic.
Right. So these 5 kids disappear.
We gotta get this show over with. We're getting drunk and doing all this side shit.
No, I'm just telling you.
I know the audience likes this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They like to see like online drama. Next, we're gonna pick a fight with another channel. That's what we're gonna do next.
Well, you want to do that because you want to.
Yeah, we're gonna pick a fight with another channel.
Because we've talked to a friend of ours.
Yeah, a friend of ours said pick a fight with another channel.
Yeah, and his advice was that because that's like kind of his job is that he's
a promoter.
He's a promoter for like various channels. He's like, oh, you should pick a fight, and I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. Come on. Yeah. It's like I don't like conflict in general, and I especially don't like pointless conflict. Yeah. And I don't like trolling. I don't like any of that kind of shit. It's like, if you want to argue with me, fine. I'm just, like, not going to listen to you, but whatever. But
yeah, this is Little Matt. Little Matt's my fucking boy. Me and him watching these Sylvester
Little Swole.
Little Swole. Yeah, you know Little Swole. I already mentioned Little Swole. Little Swole says...
That's his job.
His job is to make smaller channels big.
Right.
And, he was kind of trying to ask me for some money in a certain way, or he was kind of coming at me. I could probably help you with all that. And I said, well, actually, what you do? Well, there's a bunch of different techniques. I got a lot of good-looking girls that, on Instagram and this and that, and they share people, and they start promoting. They help me promote other people's channels, and it all works out, and this and that. And then they go, well, what? And I showed him my channel. And he goes, no, you're doing good, man. You got everything right. A lot of stuff that you're doing is right. And he goes, and I said, well, then how could you help me? And he goes, well, first thing I'd recommend you to get in a fight with another channel. And I was like, yeah, that probably wouldn't work.
It probably would, but like I said, I'm not comfortable doing that kind of shit. I'm not comfortable doing that.
Find a channel that's bigger than yours, one that's real famous, and call them a bunch of pussies and fucking start fucking with them. Call them liars and fucking make fun of them, do this and that, and just do whatever you can. You're good at that kind of stuff, Tom. Do that. Fuck with that other channel, and they'll probably respond, and next thing you know, you'll probably pick up half of their subscribers. That was a good advice, man. I was like...
It is, like, I can see how, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable doing that kind of stuff. I was like doing, like... Because, like I said,
that might work.
I'm not a confrontational person, but, like, look, if people, like, say things that just, like, annoy me, because mostly I don't get mad, I just get, like, annoyed, and I just roll my eyes at you or whatever. But it's, like, mostly I'm just like, whatever, shut up, doop, doop. And it's, like, I don't think about you anymore. So I know there's a whole culture, particularly on YouTube, that it's just like, oh, let's like troll and like they argue and stuff, but it's like I don't have time for that shit.
You see me start
to me it just seems very tiresome, and I don't have the time.
You see me start fucking with another channel, it's because fucking Lil Swole did.
Because he told you to.
Yeah, Lil Swole told me to.
So you have some plausible deniability. Yeah, I'm not going to do that because, like I said, one, I don't have time to do that, and two, it's
I don't think I'm going to fuck with it.
I'm not of that personality type.
I'm not in a hurry.
I'm not. I don't have that personality type.
His thing was, well, it'll make you grow quickly, But
because controversy, blah blah blah.
Yeah, I'm not in a hurry though. I don't give a shit.
No, I'm not either. Yeah. Like I said, essentially, we started doing this for fun. We still pretty much do it for fun. This was never a job. No, like, I have other stuff. Like, I have graphic design, I write books and shit like that. We just do this because it's kind of fun, and a lot of people kind of enjoy it.
When he said that shit, though, I started busting up. I started thinking, yeah, that probably would work.
It would. Yeah, I'm sure it does work. Well, that's where you get your fucking... But,
Because you could be making $1,000 a month on Patreon pretty easily. I mean, you're about halfway there, you know. So Little Swole. Little Swole gave me some good advice, but I don't know if I'm going to take it, you know. I don't need the money that bad.
I remember that night when he was like, because, I mean, this isn't just, we know him in person. Like, he's from here. Yeah. So, we see him all the time. Well, he's not from,
he's from New York.
Well, he's from New York, but he's moved down here now.
Yeah.
So, we see him all the time, like, or at least a month, a couple times a month. And I remember this conversation from that night, and I was just like, one, I was drunk and I wanted to dance, and I didn't like want to talk about business, but also, I'm just kind of like, man, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be an asshole, but I don't want to do that.
Little Swole comes from a wealthy family.
He does, yeah.
His parents own a company that does all the damn landscaping for the fucking people that own the world. I'm talking about people that...
The lizard people?
They're like the fucking lizard people. People in Manhattan Island that have their own private theaters and underground shit. You know what I'm talking about? Fucking... He's told me some fucking bizarre fucking stories. Mansions where half of it's underground with fucking theaters and fucking tunnels, and they own fucking houses all over the world, and he works for those people. But anyway, his parents have a house here also, like that was like a summer house.
Yeah.
And he decided, fuck it, he's going to move here. He didn't like New York anymore. He was sick of Manhattan. And
he lived in upstate New York. He lived in Long Island.
Yeah, he lived in Long Island, that's right. But he was working in Manhattan. Right? Now that went? I think that's where a lot of the customers were.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
It's, you know, we've known him for years. Anyway, that bitch moves down here, gets the fucking Florida ID and his residency and everything. Goes right out and gets his fucking CCW, carry concealed permit. Gets him an HK 365 fucking pistol. Trying to hook himself up with suppressors and shit. He's fucking eating it up. He loves it. He fucking loves it in Florida. A lot of people from New York moving here.
That's true. Well, that's been true for many years. I feel like a lot of people move here because of the climate, but just because they get sick of the cold weather and...
There's less... It's less restrictive here, too. It's just... It reminds me a lot of the way California was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just cool here. I like it. It's like California Part 2.
I like it other than the weather. I hate...
It's too fucking humid here,
the weather here. I hate it. And I was born here.
Yeah.
I'm from Florida. I was born in Daytona Beach, Florida, Halifax Hospital. I was born in Daytona Beach.
It's like... You feel like a roasted
I do not
chicken.
like... And it's even though I was born here, I still hate it. I have never gotten used to it. The humidity. I hate it.
It's worse here than it was in Mississippi.
I hate it.
It's fucking Dagobah.
It is.
Dagobah.
It is.
Oh, we got to get back on.
All right. So these 5 kids go up looking for salamander eggs and they disappear. Months pass. Years pass. There's like a huge fucking media surge. These kids' pictures are on everything. Like I said, they're called the Frog Boys because of like an erroneous perception, but whatever. That's what they ended up calling them. Now, the only lead that comes about, like, you know, they investigate some kind of like bullshit leads and stuff, but there wasn't really anything. The only lead that kind of happened in, you know, the interim between when their bodies were found was this guy calls in and he says, because there's always one guy that's like, has to like confess to crimes that he didn't fucking commit. So this guy calls in and he's like, yeah, I kidnapped those kids for ransom and like I held them and all this other kind of stuff. But they investigated that guy and there was nothing to it. Now, September 26th, as I said, that's my birthday. September 26th, 2002. Now, this guy is kind of exploring around this hill. He said he was looking for acorns. I don't know why he was looking for those. He was going to make stew out of it or feed his pet squirrels. I don't know. But he's like looking for acorns on this mountainside. Now, he finds a bunch of little bones and what looks like children's clothing. So he thinks that's a little odd, so he calls the police. Now, the police find the remains of all 5 of the quote-unquote Frog Boys in a shallow grave on the side of Mount Hwaseong. Now, the strange thing about this is that, reportedly, this area had been searched several hundred times in the 11 years since these children disappeared. Why did no one find these bodies? No one is entirely sure. Now, some people have speculated that perhaps the bodies were not there the whole time, and maybe the murderer kept them someplace and then dumped them later on. However, some mold spores that they found on some of the skulls suggested that the bodies had been there the entire time, because they can tell because of plant growth and mold growth and whatnot. Right. So they suspect that they've been there the entire time. I don't know if the searches were not particularly thorough or if they were overlooked or whatever. Because like I said, I think they were kind of buried. Now, the interesting thing about...
Okay, I might be able to explain this.
Okay.
When did they disappear?
1991.
No, I mean, what season are we talking about?
It was March, so it was spring.
Okay. Might have been that a monsoon season happened sometime after that. And the monsoon season, I've been through one of those. I talk about the fucking rain, man. And it could have been that the rain concealed the bodies at one point or another.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point, actually.
So I think that might have had something to do with it.
Because I don't think the bodies were, left out on the surface. I think they were, kind of buried.
Yeah. So you might have had, there were a lot of dirt roads in certain areas. Mm-hmm. I didn't see exactly where this was. Might have been that... oh
my goodness, Pookie.
She jumped up on there and slipped off. It's okay. Could have been that they were killed and fell down in a ravine and it rained sometime after
and then,
that.
Slid them down the hill.
Slid them down the hill a little bit and concealed them. They might have fallen in down damn pipes. Sometimes there's little pipes in between. And they were kind of tied together, weren't they?
Yeah, that was one of the things that initially when they found the bodies, they were kind of bound together, like they were all in one area.
Yeah.
Now, initially what the authorities believed was that, the 5 boys got lost and, it was only March, so they had huddled together for warmth because it was really cold out, and they had died of hypothermia and then subsequently become buried under the hill. Now, this was what the authorities believed initially. The families did not buy this, and a lot of other people that were investigating the case also did not buy it, and they requested, or demanded, I guess is the better word, they're like, please do a second autopsy because we feel like there's, a murder case going on here. So they did a second autopsy, and at the second autopsy, they found that at least one of the skulls had 2 clear bullet holes in the skull, and a couple of the other skulls also had signs of some kind of trauma, as though someone had cracked into the skulls with perhaps quote unquote a tool. I've seen it called, maybe it was a screwdriver or an awl or something like that, that looked like it had stabbed into the skull. So these boys were clearly murdered.
Yeah.
And kind of buried in one place. Because another thing that another parent said was because, look, these kids played on Mount Hwaseong all the time. There was a town on one side where they were from. There was a town on the other side of the mountain, which was lighted up at night. So it was even if it was nighttime, the kids would have looked and they would have seen the lights. They would have known which direction to go. So it's not like they could have just gotten lost and just died of hypothermia all huddled together on this mountain where they played all the time.
Yeah.
They were very familiar with the area. It seemed far-fetched.
I'd want to check when that monsoon season was again. It wasn't cold, it was warm when monsoon season. I don't remember if it was the beginning of summer. It wasn't the hottest part of the summer. It was either the beginning or the end of summer. We might want to check on that one day. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the kids disappeared at the end of March. And they weren't found until 11 years later. So
that might have been right around monsoon season.
So somebody might have killed them and then...
The monsoons
and then it came and displaced the bodies.
Displaced it or concealed the bodies. Or another thing that happened during monsoon season is that in that era, a lot of those roads going out through the country were dirt. Yeah. They were impassable during monsoon season, so there wasn't any traffic. You wouldn't have found them. Depending on where it was. I had to see exactly where the bodies were found.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of parts in Korea, even though the peninsula is not very big, where the traffic isn't very much. I mean, your average Korean doesn't own a car. They're a kind of a most of them are kind of metropolitan people. They're living in a big city, and there's public transportation.
Well, yeah, public.
They're not going very far. They're walking. So a lot of them don't own cars. If you start going out into the rural areas, there's not a lot of traffic.
Well, and the thing about it too is that I'm even thinking about places in Florida. Even if several hundred people, let's say, hypothetically, had gone over a particular, 5-mile square area of Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, you could miss.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But, I mean, it's easy.
Right.
It could easily happen.
There are places here around where we live. Let's just say if you dumped a body on the banks of that damn off the walking trail, the little pond out there.
Yeah.
The second pond, not the first.
The pond where I hear the alligators.
Yeah, we hear the alligators. You could drop somebody up there and they'd sit out there for a month.
Yeah, probably no. And this is a heavily trafficked area. Like a lot of people, it's not just our neighborhood. This is the whole county.
If they weren't actively looking for them, they'd sit up there and decompose. And then once the smell was gone, you'd have no chance of finding that damn body.
Yeah.
Unless you went down in there sifting through all that mud.
So I do kind of feel like there's a thing where people are like, oh, well, because I've seen some sources say, oh, we searched this hill 500 times, or there was thousands of people searching this area. But that's the thing. It's yeah, you're searching this area, but one, it's a massive area. It's kind of rural. It's shit could easily be missed, especially something that, the 5 bodies were found in very close proximity to one another. It was just bones at this point because it was much later. So I feel like it could have easily been missed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I do think these kids were murdered. Now, some people are like...
The thing is that the people searching don't know one area from the next, so they kind of get lazy.
Well, that too. It's
not here.
I've seen a lot of the searches.
Here.
It's they'll do a line, people will be within arm's length of each other, and they're just kind of going through the thing. But
you have the wrong person in that line at the wrong time.
Right, if they're not really paying attention, or if it's just bones at this point, it's it might be...
They didn't see it.
Yeah, it might be some small bone that's easily missed, especially if they were partially buried. And you said, it might have been monsoon season. They might have been partially washed down the hill and buried.
I think monsoon...
Not even by the person.
I had to check the dates, but man, that monsoon season was something else. It's kind of equivalent to our version of hurricane season.
Yeah.
But it just fucking rains and rains and rains and rains and rains. You don't want to go out and search during that shit.
Yeah.
Not thoroughly. It's fucking wet, man.
Yeah.
They can get to you.
And like I said,
if those bodies were out there during that monsoon season, they could have been moved by the flow of mud, flow of water.
I kind of feel like that might have been what happened. Because like I said, because of the mold growth, they're pretty sure that the bodies had been out there the entire time. Which would suggest that the boys had been killed very close to the time when they disappeared and had either been buried in a shallow grave by the killer or were just left out and then were subsequently...
We were out in the field, man, doing field problems during monsoon season. We were miserable.
Yeah.
Whenever the weather's the worst, that's when they used to send our unit out for fucking training. That monsoon season, if you guys don't know, imagine Predator 1. Imagine that movie without the Predator, but with just a fucking bunch of fucking rain. Miserable. It would just crush your soul. You're fucking sleeping out in that shit. Sleeping in mud holes and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, for our field problems, we didn't do those little 3-day field problems like this pussy. No, we did 3.5 weeks, 3-week field problems.
Yeah.
We'd be out there for nearly a month. Just fucking living out of what you carried on your back. You couldn't...
Chafing.
It was not the same time Jenny. It was not the same time That was something else. That was an eye-opening. That was a traumatic experience. Although, I kind of... To this day, I miss that shit. And
you've told me that before.
And I talked to all my buddies from that unit. I still got them on Facebook. And we all fucking love each other. And fucking remember those times.
Well,
You're bound together forever.
Yeah, well, because when you go through a traumatic experience together, it's it's a bonding that you can't ever really replicate in the quote-unquote normal world.
Yeah, and I just miss it. I miss it.
Yeah,
sometimes.
a lot of people do.
I miss it. I wish I was back in it.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
Yeah. I don't know
why.
Well,
it's extreme conditions. It's it sucks at the time, but in hindsight...
I wouldn't trade it for any amount of money.
Yeah.
It was like the ultimate rite of passage.
Well,
and you're with these dudes that are like your brothers now.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought that too. It's like, yeah, some shitty stuff has happened to me in the past, but you can't go back and not have that happen because you wouldn't be the same person nowadays.
And there's another thing.
And if you like who you are now, then you can't.
Yeah. And if you go through that shit yourself, it has a certain impact. But if you go through it with a bunch of dudes you know, it has a totally different impact. Yeah. Totally different.
Like I said,
it's like some shit out of the Iliad or the Odyssey.
Yeah, it's like a bonding experience.
Yeah, exactly.
That is not it's not easily replicated.
No, it doesn't happen in the civilian world.
In civilian like relationships.
No, and it was like when I was young, it was like a formative part of my personality.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I've heard the same thing, similar thing from
over and over.
People who've had similar situations. Yeah. Okay, so here's the thing about the death of these so-called frog boys. As I said, even though initially they believed this was an accidental death, I don't buy that. But for a long time they thought maybe this was more than one killer because it's like this was Pookie's
pushing that shit.
She's pushing the camera.
Okay.
So some people have speculated that this was more than one killer because it's like, look, this is 5. I mean, they were little kids, but, you know, the oldest one was 13. So it's like, could one killer really wrangle 5 kids at one time? But I don't know. Like, from what I've seen, like, most people believe this was a single killer. Now, what some people have speculated is that perhaps maybe the first murder or 2 was accidental and then somebody killed the other ones to like cover up for it because there was a military firing range very near to the site where the bodies were found. In fact, there was like several people that, you know, kind of frequented this mountain found shell casings and various other things, you know, in this mountain because that was something that
those are everywhere though in Korea.
That's what I mean. So it's like, did somebody accidentally, because the shooting range on this particular day, because as I said, it was a local election, so the schools were closed, a lot of workplaces were closed. The shooting range was actually closed that day. Now, some people have speculated maybe somebody went onto this shooting range, like, illegally, like, after it was closed and they were shooting and they accidentally shot a kid or accidentally shot 2 kids who were not supposed to be in the area and then freaked out and, like, killed the other ones to cover up for it. I don't know. That seems a little, like, overkill to me.
Look, man, accidental shit happened in the area we worked all the time.
Yeah.
We had a damn truck say, fuck it, and cut across a field because they didn't want to go through the intersection where the stoplights were. And run into a landmine, blow themselves up, and killed one dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no hiding that or anything. It wasn't even a big deal. They just went, yeah, shit happens. And then it goes on.
Landmines.
Yeah, landmines. If a kid got killed accidentally from a fucking range, they would just chalk it up as an accident. I mean...
That's what I kind of feel.
We had a LT get killed at a range at Fort Campbell for some stupid reason where he crawled down the side of an M249 saw range and got up close because he wanted to see the rounds hitting the target, and he got hit in the back of the head. That was in my old unit. And that just...
That's on him, though.
That was on him, but it just
went...
It went along like nothing even happened.
Yeah.
They just went like, yeah, dumbass did the wrong thing and got shot in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Because he crawled out into a range.
Yeah, which,
of all
like
fucking
I said...
crazy shit.
That's kind of a stupid thing to do.
And that's not a lie. That's true. You can look that up on the internet. That was 1990, maybe 3 or 4 at Fort Campbell. He was a guy from the 327th. I can fucking pull up buddies online. They'll tell you exactly what that LT's name was.
Yeah.
I think it was 2nd Battalion 327. That was some crazy shit. When we heard that, we're like, wait a minute, hold on. The LT crawled out into the range?
Why would you do that?
He wanted to see what 5.56 rounds looked like up close, hitting those pop-up man targets.
Right, but like, could you like
on a
check that out later?
He did it, and they know, and they know what saw or M249 saw.
Like, I don't want to know
where the
that
round
bad.
came from. They knew who did it. They didn't even tell the guy who shot him because it was an accident. They didn't know the LT was downrange in a damn pop-up target range.
Although, you know what?
Crazy shit.
That's what sucks because, like, if that was me, like, if I had shot that guy, like, even accidentally.
Yeah. No.
Man, that's messed up.
Now, fucking, it's not MI. What's the name of the fucking, the investigative team? It's not military intelligence. What am I thinking of? Oh, fuck. I forgot the name of the unit. There's a... military it's a military and crime investigation. I forgot the name of that unit, but who does that? But they checked all those barrels out and evidently took that round out. The round got lodged up inside his helmet. It hit him in the base of the skull, went through his head, hit the inside of his K-pot, and bounced back into his head. The head of the bullet.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, he was shot in the back of the head because he crawled up with a fucking, because he wanted to see what the rounds would look like. It's just fucking stupid.
That's
Stupid.
what I mean.
But, you know...
Nobody deserves to get shot like that, but that seems like a stupid thing to get killed over.
My buddy Trepansky, who was a Spec 4, he went green to gold and became an officer, and I'm friends with him on Facebook, and he's like, dude, you should have seen the officer corps. It was about as bad as the enlisted corps. A fucking second lieutenant was just a private. You know what I mean? And they had some more pull, but in this, basically a guy new in service, fucking... crawled out, low
I'm
crawled
gonna go look
into
at, like,
onto a live fire range to see what the rounds look like.
Why?
I can't tell you why. It was the thinking of the time of that guy.
Y'all got some dumbass motherfuckers.
Got shot in the back of the
head. Like I said, I'm not saying that anybody deserves to get shot, but like, and if I was the person that shot that dude, even accidentally, I would feel bad like my entire life.
When I first heard it, I didn't think it actually happened, but then I started hearing it from NCOs that no, that did happen. Yeah, man. And I was at work, and yeah, that LT over there got killed today, and I was like, what? Oh, man.
But so, like, we're saying all that to say, I'm not sure, like, I've read a lot of blog posts about this. Like I said, this has a little bit more information about it online than the Hwaseong Serial Murders has. But it still is not a great deal of information about it. And some of the speculation that I've seen is like, oh, the most likely thing is that somebody that was illegally on that shooting range, like, accidentally, like, shot one of the boys or two of the boys and then, like, decided they had to cover it up.
It's
like,
unlikely for the time.
I feel like that's probably unlikely. Like, it seems likely just because that was happening in the area, but, I mean, it seems a little bit like overkill. Like, if you accidentally shot a kid, I feel like, oh, let's shoot 4 more kids, and, like, that'll make it better. It's
That's
like,
why I told that story.
I don't...
Okay? In the United States, an LT crawled out into a live fire range and got fucking accidentally shot in the back of the head by his own stupid decision. And the world moved on like it didn't even happen. And that was like 1994.
Well, like I said, that sucks,
if
but...
that happened in Korea...
Accidents happen.
Korea was even more balls to the walls. If some kids got accidentally killed because they walked out into some range... It's been chalked up as a normal Korean accident.
Yeah, it just would have been an accident.
People were stepping on landmines all the time. They were doing all kinds of weird shit.
Like, it's horrible, but...
The Korean civilization was basically pimping out all their good-looking, pretty poor girls to the U.S. Army to get money back and to help rebuild their economy. This was not that kind of civilization. If a guy accidentally killed some kid on range, he just would have called the fucking cops and says, I was shooting these damn kids, got on a range. And they would have...
And they would have just, Okay. I feel like...
That's what happened.
Because, like I said, I even saw this fucking horror movie on Netflix. It's called Caliber. Actually, you should watch it. It's very good. But it's like, it's about essentially the same thing. It's like 2 guys go out hunting. They accidentally shoot a kid. And then, stupidly, they make the decision to cover that up and also kill the kid's dad because there's all this other kind of shit going on. And I feel like most 99.9% of normal people, if that happened... You would report it because it was an accident. You didn't mean to shoot that person. They just got in the way. It's like, it's horrible. It would probably traumatize you forever. But I feel like you wouldn't compound your error by shooting 4 innocent children in addition.
In most cases that I know that are like that involving hunters and accidental shootings, because the guy that lived across, well, that's another story. The guy that lived across my fucking street from my dad's house in Mississippi, he was a hunter. Hunting on his own land. He shot and killed a guy out in the field. And he called the cops. And he goes, I shot this guy. in my property, and he's, why'd you shoot? He pointed a gun at me.
Well, yeah, I mean...
And there were no witnesses, and they were just like, well, okay, well, I guess that happened.
Well, it does happen. That's what I mean. It's like...
And back in those days, that wouldn't have been the same thing where we have to cover this up because we accidentally killed a kid. Not in Korea.
I kind of feel like
in Korea, they would have immediately go, the kids were on the range, it was an accident, okay, get the fuck out of here.
Well, that's what I mean. So that's what kind of, like, leads me to believe that this was, like, a purposeful...
Yeah.
That somebody purposely killed. Like, I don't know if, like I said, by the time they found them, it was 11 years later, so I don't think they could determine, like, for example, if the boys had been, like, sexually assaulted or whatnot. But I feel like this was probably...
That shit was a murder.
A murder
situation.
I don't think it was an accident. I don't think it was anything like that. And like I said, I feel like that's probably pretty likely, even though they don't have any, like, physical evidence
And
of that.
how many kids was it? 4?
5.
5
kids.
Yeah, you could cow 5 kids of that age. You point.
I mean, they were little. They were 13. They were from 9 to 13.
Point a gun at them, and you hold one of them hostage while the other ones have to fucking sit there with their face down on the ground. You could control them, especially if you were a Korean male who was older than them with military experience. And Koreans mostly have military experience. They're drafted.
Well, yeah, they have to serve like a certain amount of time.
So you might have had a situation where you had a pedophile, you know what I mean, who also had a gun and decided he was going to do his thing. Now, the thing that's kind of suspicious with this case, from my point of view, is usually the kind of guy that has the gumption to do fucking something like this doesn't stop.
That's what's weird about this, because this seems like, I mean, the Frog Boys case is, like, enormously... famous in Korea, not so much here. Like, I feel like people kind of know about it, but it's not as famous as some other cases. But this seems like something that was so specific that this dude must have done other shit like this.
What I would have checked is was there any American connection?
Yeah.
Was there an American serviceman in that area from a military base?
Now I'm kind of wondering.
Where he could gone out, he was a fucking pedophile, and he goes out, and he either has a gun or a pickaxe or an ice pick. Were they sure that they were shot with a pistol in the head?
At least one of them was, because they found 2 bullet holes.
And what caliber are we talking about?
It was a shotgun, essentially.
A shotgun? Mm-hmm. Okay.
As far as I know.
An American serviceman really wouldn't have access to a shotgun. Shotguns aren't military weapons. So that kind of is against my theory. That it was an American,
but not. That doesn't.
It would be tough, you know. Maybe he somehow figured out how to get his hands on a shotgun to do this.
Yeah.
And maybe it was a sawed-off shotgun, something more portable, like a fucking little pistol that fired a shotgun cartridge or something.
Yeah,
which
that's
those do
possibility.
exist.
Sure.
And some of them can be homemade. It could have been maybe a homemade shotgun in some weird way. And then he goes out and does this, and then ETS's. Change a duty station, and he's gone forever. You know.
That's what I mean. This dude might have killed other people, but in other countries, so it wasn't linked back.
Right.
Like you said, in a way, it kind of like makes me lean toward that theory, because this crime seemed to be like it was a big deal in Korea, but it wasn't really repeated.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like the guy had timed it. Maybe he's like, I'm out of here in 2 weeks. So I'm going to do this now.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that might have... And then, like, he went to... And maybe he did some shit in another country, but nobody thought to link it because, you know, it was another country.
I think there's a strong possibility. But I have to see where the location were, where the closest camps were. Because there are U.S. military camps all over Korea.
Yeah.
And for somebody to be able to leave the camp and go out and roam the countryside without being, you know what I mean?
Without being, like...
watched or without being...
suspicious, sure.
Would mean that he might have been from one of the service and support camps where they're not really tightly controlled. Maybe he would have been been an officer or something. Somebody who had, like a lieutenant or something. Where he would have had the ability to leave kind of like under his own authority, maybe.
Yeah.
You know. You just have to see. I mean, some guys that were stationed in the Seoul area, and I think even the Camp Casey area, I don't think they were as tightly controlled as I was, to where they could just leave the camp and go downtown whenever they wanted to.
I kind of feel like, this second one, like the first case we talked about, the Hwaseong serial killer, I definitely feel like that was a Korean, that he was a local because he targeted women in this one particular area. This case, I'm not so sure because this seemed like kind of a one-off in this area, so I feel like maybe this was somebody that wasn't from there.
Yeah.
He might have been familiar with the area, but like you said, he might have been military, and then after, shortly after this occurred, he might have been, he might have moved to another place, and he might have, like, reoffended in other places, but no one thought to link the two crimes.
My experience of Korea wasn't the same as the average guy that got deployed down there. You know what I mean? I was in a high security unit. They didn't want us free.
Yeah.
Walking around talking to people. You know what I mean? Because, remember I told you about all those girls and shit that they were throwing at us at all those clubs? Mm-hmm. They were also intelligence agents.
Yeah.
They listened to everything that we said. And they told their people, there's government South Korean intelligence involved, possibly North Korean intelligence too. There's no way of knowing. I heard some stories from some other guys that were there where it seemed like a girl was trying to entrap them. They might have been under the control of North Koreans. I don't know. Or maybe they were under the control of South Koreans. I had a friend who was in part of JSA, which is a higher security area. And a girl that he was seeing regularly, I think he was stationed in Seoul somewhere. He was it was like a joint command in Seoul. And he showed me a picture of the girl. He was dating her. Gorgeous, okay. She tried to get him on heroin. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then he reported that.
Yeah.
All right, and then she vanished.
So also interesting.
Yeah, and what we thought, the Army never told him, Eric, anything.
Yeah.
Okay, about why that happened. Afterwards, me and Eric thought that what she was is she might have been South Korean intelligence and wanted to get him on some kind of weird
so she would like
drugs.
So he would admit some shit.
So she could control him and use that as leverage over there to
well, I feel like that's been like a long-standing...
Yeah, to get...
Yeah, sure.
Allies spy on each other all the time. A lot of people don't understand that, but allies, Israel spies on us, England spies on us all the time. They do that kind of dirty shit.
Well,
to find out
know what they're up to.
Well, they want to know if we're keeping up our side of some kind of a bargain.
Yeah.
That's usually what it's all about. And it's also just control and power. We were wondered if it was a North Korean, but I don't think it was. I don't think North Korea had that power. I don't think they had the connections to do it. I think it was a South Korean. Or it might have been a loyalty test. For all we know, it might have been a loyalty test from the Americans. To see if he would report her or not.
Right.
So we don't know.
Could have been any of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this case in particular, like I said, a lot of the blogs I read seemed to think that, like, maybe it was somebody on this range and they weren't supposed to be there and they accidentally killed one of the boys or two of the boys and then, like, thought that it was easier to kill 5 kids rather than, like, report it. I'm not sure I essentially buy that because I think 99.9% of people would probably report that because it was an accident. So I kind of feel like that's probably not what happened. Now, there have been, like, some other theories put forward, mostly by a criminal psychologist known as Kim Won. Now, he thought that maybe one of the boys' fathers was responsible for the murders and that he had killed his son and then killed the other ones to cover up that it was him that had done it, like I said, to kind of, like, make it seem like it was a random person instead of him. So this particular criminal psychologist, like, kind of put this out there in Korea, and as there was no evidence for any of the children's parents being involved in the disappearance or murder of their sons, this criminal psychologist was pretty much, like, blackballed. He was fired from his job and stuff like that. And as I said, there is no evidence to suggest that any of the children's parents had anything to do with their murders, and I do kind of feel like that's not... I don't know. It just feels like that's not the MO. I feel like this was, again, kind of like we were talking about with the serial killer earlier. It almost seems like this was a crime of opportunity. This was like some weirdo that was, like, hanging out on this mountain or whatever. Maybe he lived up there. Maybe he was stationed up there. And he saw these 5 boys going past, and he's kind of like, yeah, I just, like, I could get into that. I could do whatever. Like I said, there's no evidence that they were raped, but because it was 11 years later, there were skeletons at that point.
Sex had to be the motive.
So I feel like, just because they didn't have any evidence of that doesn't mean that it didn't happen.
I'm saying this is a soldier.
They were all tied together, which to me suggests a little bit of a fetishistic.
Yeah, this is a soldier, I think. And I'm going to lean towards there's a good chance this might have been an American soldier. And I'm saying that as an ex-American soldier. This sounds like... I mean, there's a possibility this could have been a Korean soldier. But I think this might have been an American soldier.
Maybe.
Because, and the reason why I'm saying that is because if it was a Korean soldier, it probably would have continued.
Yeah, that's what's weird to me. It's just, this seemed like a one-off. I mean, killing 5 kids at once, that seems like something that would be repeated.
This might have been an American soldier that fucking had a bunch of fucking problems, you know what I mean? And he did his thing, and then he ETS'd and went back to the United States right after this.
And then he might have done some shit here.
Maybe
and
did
then,
some
like,
shit here, maybe he was caught under a different, you know what I mean? You don't know. But this is very fishy.
I'm kind of like leaning toward your explanation.
I'd have to see the map and see where this exactly happened and where the camps were around there. But I would have thought that the Koreans would have fucking already assumed this. The Koreans, I think. Now, whether or not they would have admitted publicly that they thought it was an American soldier, probably not, because they were always worried about the alliance. They didn't.
You don't want to like shit on.
Right.
Right.
And
that's like your
here's
ally.
something that you know what I mean. A lot of maybe American civilians that have never been involved with the Korean situation. I hear them say a lot of shit online and in the media, and these motherfuckers don't know what they're talking about. South Korea never wanted us to leave. They were making lots of money. Okay, we helped rebuild their economy, and the United States industrial complex never wanted to leave North Korea. Or, excuse me, South Korea. We just made a lot of money there. You know, all those government contracts. And I would say we were only kind of partially the good guys. Yeah, we were protecting the South, but we were also kind of preventing the South and the North from resolving their problems. All right? We were making money off of it, and so was the South. We kind of outstayed our welcome. It's time for us to leave and let these Koreans fucking sort this out on their own. I was there. All right. South Korea has a huge army. They can take care of themselves.
Yeah.
North Korea is fucking pitiful at this point. They've starved down to nothing, you know. The whole nuclear thing, I think, is kind of a fucking... It's not a threat to us, only to South Korea. You know?
Yeah. I mean, you can see why they're worried about it, because they're right there. But, like, you know.
But it's not really our business.
We don't need to worry about it.
We don't need to worry. It's not our business anymore. And the South Koreans a big boy. They can take care of this shit on their own. And I think they just need to sign a peace treaty, let everybody chill out, and it'll take care of itself generationally. You know what I'm talking about? It might take another 20 or 30 years, but it'll slowly work itself out.
Well, like I said, as old people and their stupid ideas die.
During the time I was there, I would
Things
say...
get better.
During the time I was there, in the 90s, I would say that America's presence was needed. But I can't say that anymore. I think the situation's changed over time. It's time for us to wrap that up.
Yeah.
And I think that'll happen soon. It's just... The situation's changed too much. South Korea is too strong. They don't need us there anymore.
Yeah, I kind of have that feeling as well. Now, as I said, like I said, some of the other theories about this, maybe the parents are involved. There was also kind of a weird theory. I don't know how weird this is because I don't live over there, but some people have said that maybe apparently there is a belief in Korea, or among some segments of the Korean population, that if you have leprosy, then children's kidneys will cure you. So for a long time, there was like a rumor that perhaps someone had killed, that maybe a leper or a leper colony had gotten together and killed these children to
Bullshit.
take their livers. Yeah, so that seems a little far-fetched.
Bullshit.
Like I said, I don't live there, so I don't know how far-fetched that is. It seems very far-fetched.
South Korea is not backwards.
That's
even
what I mean.
Back then.
I feel like that's probably...
Bullshit.
Yeah, that seems like somebody like grasping at straws.
Yeah.
So, as I said, I really do not believe that the parents are involved in this. Now, as of 2006, as I mentioned on the first part of the show where I was talking about the Hwaseong serial killer, there used to be a thing where, the statute of limitations on murder ran out after 15 years. However, the Frog Boys case, essentially, it seems like it kind of like changed the thinking on that because a lot of people like flipped out about the Frog Boys case, and because the bodies were not found for 11 years, and they were like, look, if the murderer is found now, like, we can't prosecute them, that's bullshit. So I feel like that, that law kind of got overturned either across the board or in limited cases such as this. So in 2006, the statute of limitations was said to have expired on the Frog Boys case. However, again, in 2015, it seems like that has been overturned. They've reopened a lot of cold cases, including this one. So they are still kind of looking into solving this case. Whether they will or not, I don't know. But I do feel like this was probably... I'm leaning toward this being not an accident, not lepers, not the families. I feel like this was a lone weirdo.
Yeah, multiple murder.
That saw these kids, and it was like a crime of opportunity. I feel like that's probably what happened.
Probably.
Or it was somebody that was even like, oh, maybe like a lot of kids, because schools were closed that day, so they're kind of like, oh, maybe there'll be
There's
some
a
kids.
chance they maybe...
Or maybe they'd been stalking them.
There is an outside chance that they'll catch this guy, but probably not. No DNA. But
yeah, in this case, as far as I know, there were no DNA because, as I said, it was such a long time between the kids disappearing and them finding their bodies.
Before we shut this down, I want to give you guys a recommendation. And I know that we're always talking about movies, okay? And we like to talk about horror movies and monster movies. There's a fucking movie you guys need to see, and you can watch it for free on YouTube, called Pugasari.
Oh, right.
Pugasari is a North Korean movie made by Kim Jong-il, who's Kim Jong-un's father.
It's fantastic.
Kim Jong-il was a master of creation. He had mastered all forms of science, all forms of art.
Also, he created the world, right?
Created the world. He even calmed the seas, and he fucking defeated the
sun in the firmament.
Everything. Yeah. He actually, instead of going to the moon, he actually brought the moon to Korea.
That's right.
And removed it. He did all kinds of shit like that, okay? He made a monster movie, okay, like a Godzilla movie called Pugasari, and he captured his favorite...
Not a joke, not a joke.
Yeah, he actually captured his favorite directors to come and make this movie.
He made them make this movie.
Pugasari is a fucking little small monster that grows when you feed him steel. He gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and he becomes like Godzilla. But it's happening in medieval Korea.
It's like Big Man Japan.
Big Man Japan.
It gets better when he gets bigger when you do it.
Now, Pugasari, they call him Pugasario. Pugasario is actually capitalism, really. That's what it is. It's a monster you feed steel, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You have to defeat it, but you can only defeat it through socialism. You can only defeat it through socialism. People have to call it...
But Godzilla's metaphorical, too.
Yeah, exactly. For atomic weapons.
Atomic weapons, sure.
So, go watch Pugasari. You guys will love it. I would love to have... when you have like Shogun Warriors, the jumbos, the 2-foot tall jumbos, and you even had like a big.
He's got some of those. They're in here.
Yeah, I got one right up there. I'm gonna show you. They're up there.
Look,
all right.
See, they're there.
Yep. They even had a big Godzilla or Gojira, which is his real name. All right. I saw somebody selling a Pugasari.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been North Korean because I don't think the North Koreans knew about merchandising. This was made in the very early 80s.
Well, someone probably just made a replica.
But the thing is that commies can't copyright anything. So I was really thinking of one of these days to make a Pugasari, a big 2-foot tall Pugasari, blow molded plastic.
I can make a shirt with it. What are they going to do? Sue me?
They can't sue you.
Doubt it.
Commies can't. Commies can't sue.
Well, they can, but I'm just going to ignore it.
Commies can't sue. You can rip off anything they do.
That's another shirt we should make. Commies can't sue.
Commies can't sue. They don't have any. They took that CZ75 pistol and they fucking copied that shit everywhere because they don't copyright anything. You can copy anything the commies did.
They have like a real different approach to that, to intellectual property than we have in the West.
They don't believe in intellectual property.
Well, it's like if you came up with it.
Intellectual property belongs to mankind, so they just freely fucking copy.
Everybody.
Yeah,
so
it's for everybody.
We can just like do whatever we want with that shit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I would love to fucking make a pukasario.
You ought to get on.
Yeah.
Like I said, we should make.
I ought to make a shirt like that.
That's what I said. I'm gonna make a T-shirt with that.
And actually, he's much cooler than Godzilla.
It is an entertaining movie. I actually found it quite entertaining.
He's shaped kind of like Godzilla, but he has kind of a bull-like face with big horns. Yeah. It's caught between a bull and a lizard, and he's red. You remember that?
Yeah.
He's red, and I think he was filled with some kind of molten stuff, wasn't he? Was he filled with molten steel?
Oh, I don't remember that.
It's a good movie.
He might have been, yeah.
I liked it better than Godzilla.
Oh, that's a hot take.
But he doesn't fight anything giant though. He just fights a bunch of soldiers fight him.
I have a soft spot for the Gamera movies. I have to say, just because the monsters he fought were so ridiculous. Like, I have a knife for a head.
Yeah.
And I shoot
throwing
ninja stars like out of the side of my head, like you do, you know.
Yeah.
All right, so okay, we're getting probably drunk enough at this point, so so let's wrap up the show about Korean true crime. Hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of, as I said, we always go off into these like fucking tangents, these tangent-filled digressions into the cases of the Hwaseong serial killer and also the Frog Boys murder case. So look more into it. There's not a lot about it in English, but if you can speak Korean, then you probably get more out of it than I can. Also, like I said, check out the movie Memories of Murder, which is about the Hwaseong serial killer. It's very good. All right, so we are wrapping up episode 151. Remember, if you like the show, like, share, subscribe on all your social media. If you'd like to financially support the show, it would be much appreciated. You can go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/13o'clockpodcast, or you can go to our blog, 13o'clockpodcast.wordpress.com, and there's a little button in the sidebar to a PayPal account where you can give a one-time donation if you would like to do so. Also be much appreciated. And remember, our regular episodes come out every Tuesday, and our movie retrospectives, usually old movies, come out every Friday. We also have 13 o'clock matinee, new movies in the theater that we review. That comes out every Sunday. If you are a patron, you get early access to these 24 hours before they go up live on YouTube. So check that out if you would like to do so, and we will see you next time. Bye.